Hello. Welcome to Butler. I don't really have any clue why you're all here, but I'm thankful. I appreciate you guys coming out. Sold out event. Some people couldn't make it at the last minute due to various things in life. Some of them are Canadian. We were fine with that anyway. But we're happy that you are here. Travis ran you through the ground rules. You guys so far who have been here already last evening and today have been awesome. Just so you know, we have heard from multiple business owners, and my own business, thankfully, telling us how great the crew has been, how respectful, how good at tippers. Keep that reputation up, because gamers, we gotta unite. I don't want to waste any more of your time, but I do want to fill you in on a few things. Tonight we're going to talk about the greatest games of all time. And the 6 hosts of the different shows are going to come out and give you their pitch. Then they're going to argue about it like children. And then at the end you're going to vote. And that vote, whoever wins, gets crowned absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter at all. But it's going to give them bragging rights. And then they're going to mock Dustin about it because he's definitely going to lose. So, let me start off by introducing to you the host of the Last Word podcast, the host of the Iron Lords podcast, the CEO of lordsofgaming.net, the newest and most absolutely jacked and handsome co-host of Defining Duke, Lord Cognito. I just want to mention, too, that when I picked him up at the airport, he sent me a message and said, I'll be the guy in the black 49ers hat. And I said, great, I didn't know if I'd be able to find you in the sea of white people, so I appreciate it. Next up, a man who really needs no introduction, but it's my job and honor, so I'm going to do it anyway. My favorite animator in the entire world, even though I've seen almost none of his work. The man who contributed to the Happy Tree Friends, Pinky Dinky Doo, and none other than the breakout hit, Assy McGee, a part of Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded's animation team, and the real reason, we all know it, that Sesame Street has won the Emmy Award in its 47th season. The guy that all of us wish was our uncle, and the co-host of Knockback, Dagan Moriarty. Now, all of the other individuals here tonight are my honor to introduce. The next one is okay. He's a prolific YouTuber. He's the creator and host of the Ham Radio podcast. He's a man who loves RPGs more than he loves his own mother, and he is the only man capable of being both an Xbot and a Sony pony at the exact same time. Welcome the host of Defining Duke, Mr. Matty Plays. Now, this next guy is the creator of some of your favorite YouTube videos as well. Well, favorites in general. He's the creator of Social Justice the Musical. He is Paul the Llama's arch nemesis. He is the man who is equally disdained by both major political parties. He has an entire page on Tumblr dedicated to nearsighted men fetish. He's the host of the Snark Tank and the most absolutely wild host of Sacred Symbols, Chris Reagan. It's pretty good. You like what I did there? All right, the next man, the founder of Handsome Phantom. He's part of the Ham Radio podcast. He's Colin's bitch sometimes. One of my best friends in the world, despite the fact that approximately 1/3 of his body is made up of anime. He's the man that's simultaneously in front of and behind all the work that goes on at Stand Media because he's the executive producer. He's the co-host of Sacred Symbols. He is Dustin Furman. And that's it. Colin couldn't make it. See you guys later. Last but certainly not least, he started working at the world's largest video game website before most of you were out of diapers. He's founded two of gaming culture's most beloved companies, and he's currently the owner of the largest gaming and nerd-centric Patreon in the entire world, thanks to you all. Go ahead. He is the lover of terrible football teams. He is the crafter of magnificent tweets. He is the co-owner of Lilymo Games and the host of Knockback and Sacred Symbols. Let's give it up for Colin Moriarty.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you guys. Thank you for being here today. I left my house just for this. Now, we haven't been together in a long time. In fact, I was talking to Chris earlier. We hadn't even seen each other since mid-December of 2019. So this has been a good excuse for us to all get together and figure out what we can do together with our wonderful community, all of you. Before we get into all of this today, I want to just thank everyone that has helped us, including, most of all, Dustin and Ben, who did a fantastic job. This would not have happened. I also want to take a moment to just thank everyone. You know, you're amongst our most hardcore audience. And we could not do what we do without each and every one of you supporting us. It's wild out there in the games ecosystem, and as I think you'll see when we put up the Philip Houston interview for everyone, not everyone's going to like everything we do. But we feel like it's honest, and we have fun with it, and we are grateful. So thank you so much for allowing us to do this. Welcome to Butler, and I guess we'll leave it here. So Ben, how do you want to handle this next?
Yeah, so we have everybody here from the team. We also have Mama Micah. Well, I won't point her out so she doesn't get embarrassed unless she wants to be. She's around as well. And there's one person that works with us and does some work that wanted to send off a little something special for us. And really, this is something special for the community, and it's also something special for these guys up here. None of them know what it is. Maybe they have guesses, but they don't know, they've not seen it. They haven't seen it. And they've got a little monitor up here. You don't have to worry about that. They can see. If not, they can turn around and look. But they got a little video, and then I got a few more words to say after that. I'll get rolling in about 10 seconds here once my mic's muted and I can walk over there.
Hi everybody, my name's Mark, and in February of 2017, I lost my right leg due to a surgical complication. It wasn't long after that, in fact, it was almost immediately after that I started posting in the old CLS Facebook group my Cyborg Mark updates, which would basically be the stories I would be telling about my recovery. When I was in a really dark period, a period that I didn't really know if I'd ever recover from, Colin and his community were kind of there to let me know that things could look up as long as I kept on working hard. So I'll always thank Colin for that, and I'll always defend him anytime people are giving him shit on Twitter.
This is a question to Colin. Now, I want everyone to answer it, though. I've been following you since your days at IGN, where I loved your approach and perspective. So glad Last Stand Media is growing and gaining continued support and success. On Twitter, it's obvious that the industry journalists are not a fan of you. They always make comments that you have a toxic community that attacks anyone that says something negative about you. As a member of this community, it hurts me to hear that, since I know you preach to everyone on here to be kind, and in my experience, your supporters are nice, kind, level-headed, and diverse people. Why is there so much negativity towards you and this community when it's phenomenal?
I moved out here to the US from the UK last February, right before COVID hit. It was a really scary experience for me, having no friends, no real footing in this country. The Last Stand community and the guys who provide the content that we listen to have been those friends to me that I really needed during that time.
The things people say about me on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, I'm a fascist, I'm an asshole, I'm a Nazi. Whatever the case may be, I am a fucking idiot. But I don't put that on other people. I attack their work. And their work is bad. So I'm going to keep
What does LSM mean to me? I mean, besides the hosts and the shows and all that, it's got to be the Discord community. And the people in there are just great.
One of the most kind, welcoming, and fun communities to be in.
This is a community where we understand each other and we respect each other.
It's a gaming culture of acceptance.
It has been so fantastic to connect with and share my passions with people from all around the world.
It feels like it's a place that I can be accepted.
It's one of the most supportive groups of people that I've ever known.
Last Stand Media and the community has always been there to help make me feel welcome.
I know that at any time I can go to the Discord and I'm gonna have support.
Even if we have completely different views on something, we're still supporting each other.
I can't think of any group of people that I would rather have a conversation with.
Ranging from the loss of family to dealing with addiction to our favorite Star Wars movie.
Fun, open-minded, intelligent, and hilarious.
I mean, everybody's welcome in this community. Even people who think Breath of the Wild is a good game.
Not to say that everyone in our community is a perfect angel.
I mostly listen to Last Stand Media here in the woods.
I was recognized as a terrorist by the UN because of what they said.
You guys all have horrible opinions on games, but you're very nice.
Last Stand Media opened its arms to me, and it's raid-free.
One time, Colin said I should get a Vita, so I bought a Vita, and I like it.
They also excluded me from the Sacred Symbols Plus near school.
You know, to me, it's just a really good alt-right community. I mean, all-right community, Cat.
Yo, Last Stand Media all day, Last Stand Media all night. We love you, all of you guys. You're the shit.
Time and time again, we hear that this audience has been the most welcoming to all people that a lot of people have ever been in. So I don't care about my honor. I care about the audience that's been so good to us. We have a genuinely great, diverse, peaceful audience.
You guys really helped me out during a, I would say, gut-wrenching time in my life.
I was laid off for a good year. I haven't seen any of my friends, family as well. So Sacred Symbols and like all the other podcasts helped me get through a lot of things.
I had a really hard time accepting a struggle with mental illness and depression and anxiety, and hearing Colin talk about his own struggles and his own honest outlook on it really, you know, it helped me a lot.
Here I am now. I'm happy. I'm healthy. It really helped me during a time of depression and anxiety, and now I'm in a period I'm thriving. So thank you.
I met my fiance through what became the Last Stand Media community. At the time that I met him, I was homeless. I was sick. My mother was dying of cancer. Now I have a roof over my head. I'm in better health.
Colin Moriarty got me through some of the hardest parts of my life. I can never thank him enough for how much he has done for me, whether or not he knows it.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. You guys have indeed done so much for me, more than you ever know.
It like changed everything for me. It was like hanging out with my friends. It was like talking about games with my friends. It was like bringing me back to a time that I felt good and that I was happy.
You guys have really changed how I look at life, my outlook on things. You provided a positive, welcoming community for everyone, and I've made so many friends in this community.
I just wanted to say, in terms of Last Stand Media, it's something that has meant a lot to me to be a part of the Last Stand Media community, but also to have my community in the 4 pillars, to coexist with it and be friends with it is so awesome.
If Last Stand Media is nothing else, it's a diverse range of creative minds that create real content. It's genuine, it's down to earth.
LSM has inspired me to start a podcast, me of all people.
One time I had a job interview, and I'm a young guy, so I don't know exactly what's going on. I had some of the older members of the Discord basically helped me for 2 hours figure out how I was going to get this job, and I did as a result.
Colin always shows a sign of respect and always is open-minded to people, and that should be something that people outside Colin's community should acknowledge.
The reason I like Sacred Symbols Knockback and Defining Duke isn't because I agree with everything that's said on those shows. I just really like hearing different people's perspectives and knowing that if I came back with a different perspective to them, they wouldn't judge me for it.
I don't really care so much about my own honor anymore. I realize that these people don't really have much control over me. I actually think that's part of what bothers them, is that they just can't, they have no tools at their disposal anymore. They thought getting rid of me, isolating me from media was going to hurt me. They thought isolating me from PR and developers and publishers were going to hurt me, but nothing hurts us. I'm not going to shut up. There's nothing that they're going to do to me that can make me shut.
Stupid fucking American cow. Let's get 200 people together in a tiny room.
So, if you didn't know, that was Lockboard at the end. He's a beautiful man. But I told Colin, as part of my plan to get him here and bring all sorts of money to the local economy, that I'd give him a key to the city. But I did a little more than that. I want to let you know what it was. Whereas Butler, Pennsylvania is a community which honors entertainment and culturally significant events. And whereas Last Stand Media, formerly known as Colin's Last Stand, was founded in 2017 by Colin Moriarty to discuss history and politics with a later pivot to video games, movies, and other forms of important media. And whereas Last Stand Media has remained an inclusive and open community for those who share common interests, regardless of their individual backgrounds and identities, and has further expanded its reach by recruiting staff who had a wide appeal across many different groups of people. And whereas Last Stand Media held its first live event in Butler, Pennsylvania, on September 4th, 2021, supporting the local economy and bringing awareness of the city to the company's many fans and supporters across the world. Now, therefore, I get to do this kind of stuff. I, Benjamin A. Smith, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Butler, Pennsylvania, do hereby proclaim Saturday, September 4th, 2021, as Last Stand Media Day. And I got a copy for each of them.
Wow. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor.
Wow.
And a key for each of them, too. Whoa. Just hand them out like candy around here.
I gotta take all those mayor joke backs from last night.
Yeah. Oh, that's weird. Take it away. It's all yours.
What the hell?
This is so cool. Oh my God. I can't believe it. First of all, that video was very nice. Thank you. Did you know about that?
Sort of.
Yeah.
I know everything.
All right.
Production.
So what I wanted to do And I was talking to, the guys, Ben and Dustin and everyone. Like, I wanted a thesis to do something like this. Some of you probably saw me at like PAX and PSX and shows like that, and they're fun, but without there being a reason to have like an evening with us, I felt like just like sitting here and shooting this shit, you can just listen to us do that on the shows. Why would you come here for that? So instead, what I thought we would do is try to make a thesis, try to come away with something as if it were a debate, or like when we talk about games and entertainment, movies, etc. on our shows. So what I thought I would do is have everyone make their own presentation in any way they wanted about what they thought the greatest game was. And what's great about it is that none of us know what each of us brought. In fact, we don't even know, or you know the order of Horseman, but we don't even know the order in which we're going to present. So I'm pretty excited about this, and I think that we want honest feedback afterwards. You can always, some of you were probably DM'd, by the way, with us, with me on Patreon. We want to see if we can learn something from this so that maybe we can visit other cities and towns in the future with different combinations of us, have different kinds of conversations, and then maybe in the future we have a nice little selection of these and a reason for you to come out and be with us. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this. I want to see what everyone's presentations are like. Mine might be a little more scholarly. I suspect Dagan's might be a little more comedic. Not scholarly. So, Ben.
Yes, sir.
How do you want to handle it from here? Do you want to?
I think we just have Matty take it away.
Okay.
Now I got to say first, I'm a little shocked because
I don't want to step on your key or anything.
I'm a little shocked because I genuinely thought that I'd be in the middle of the pack then, but here we go. So this is how a lot of you know me, I imagine. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you found me in the worst way possible. I hope not. But a lot of people call me this, and for good reason. It tends to be the favorite genre of mine. So these are the games you probably associate me with. You're probably looking down the list as Colin announced, like, hey, we're talking about our favorite games. And you're like, Matty's probably a little predictable. He talks about one game all the time. And so I either disappoint you now or not, but yeah. Yep. So, seems not the surprise of anyone, Toy Story 3 is my selection for what I think is one of the greatest games of all time. Gentlemen, real quickly, anyone surprised by this pick? No? Okay. All right, so it's not just about... It is not just me, right? Statistically speaking, you have people who have received the Platinum Trophy for Toy Story 3 more than The Last of Us on PS3, BioShock Infinite, GTA 5. I mean, that's a little embarrassing when you think about it, but not only that, I learned through PSN profiles more people finished Toy Story 3 than Red Dead, Fallout 3, and Skyrim. And that says something, right? You've beat the game. You liked it enough to get to the end, but not only that, there's a dedicated 10% almost who thought, I like this so much, I'm going all the way. I mean, what more do you need than that? But, well, I do have some more, of course. So, next. So, for some reason, the percentage just got messed up here. That is supposed to be 99.9. I swear, 3% of people do not like Toy Story 3. Okay? Oh, wait, no, it says Toy Story 3 with a percent. All right, it's supposed to say 99.9. Point being, though, is the other 0.1% is sitting right next to me here. Mr. Dustin Farmer. As the person who likes Tomba 2 versus Toy Story 3, am I correct? Okay. So I just wanted to bring the stats in here, right? Because I think that's really important, is before I give you my opinion, that's all that is, right? It's an opinion, but the stats speak for themselves. So why do I think, beyond the statistics, Toy Story 3 is the best game of all time? Well, that's why. I was supposed to do that earlier, right? Okay. As you can see, This has diverse levels, engaging boss fights, and it's true to the film, which is hard to do all at once because you see a lot of tie-in games, they botch it, right? It's too short, there's not enough there, you're doing the same thing constantly. This game says no to all of that. And I gotta say, there's levels like, as you can see in the middle, Woody's on a train, like you're hijacking this thing. I'm like, dude, what is this? It's freaking Toy Story 3, are you kidding me? But it's not just a tie-in game, all right? That's the thing. This goes well above and beyond that. It's a tight third-person shooter. It's a shooter. We'll see in a sec, all right? It's a 3D platformer. It's an arcade racer. A builder even. Collectathon, and collectively, an experience. And for some reason, Siri's going off. But anyway, you're probably wondering how it reached this level of popularity. It's because of myself. And no one else. Now, we need to talk. This game set a precedent that no one's talking about, but I'm going to bring it to your attention. So, you guys know who this is, right? Okay, good. If you didn't, I'd be really disappointed. So, he's known for bringing us to settlements, telling us to build shit, fetch quests. A lot of people associate him with the start of all of that. It was 2015, right? Preston Garvey. But this is truly what happened. I'm serious. I'm serious. Bethesda stole from Toy Story 3, and here I am. I'm giving its due diligence, right? Because Toy Story 3, it features a town building mode where you can literally invite toys in as you do jobs, and you can customize them all as you want, and you run all these little fetch quests and stuff. It's a good time. But Bethesda saw that, and they were just like, yo, good idea, man. Let's make Fallout 4. Let's base it around that. I think it's really important to point out, because at the end of the day, if anything you take away from this, you may not vote for me. I'd be pissed, but you may not vote for me. But at least you've learned something here today. So the Toy Box experience, that's what it's called. You go to this map. You've got all the different levels you can go to. But then there's the actual Toy Box mode that we're talking about here, where this is the typical loop. You build up your town, you complete missions, collect coins, you buy stuff, and you repeat it. So it's really good. You can see, like, there's a stunt park you can unlock. You can customize the little aliens. I mean, how many of you are Toy Story 3 fans in general? Oh, yeah. Okay. Specifically the film, but yeah. So being able to just go in there and, like, tweak and put on, like, a cowboy hat on one of the aliens, it's wild, right? Sorry, Chris. So this is where it all changes, though. This is what changes it all. They get to use fucking guns. Name a game where you can see Woody handle. Look at that guy. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So that's where things change, right? I'm playing the game. I'm like, all right, we're going through the levels. We're building stuff. This is pretty cool. So then they hand you a gun. And I'm like, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. So, in conclusion, this is literally GTA for kids and adults, depending if you're like me or man-child, right? It's got tight racing controls. You can steal vehicles. The Toy Box is literally that. Like, it's the definition of a sandbox open-world experience. And so, for me personally, that is why Toy Story 3 is one of the greatest games of all time. You know, you get to run around with a gun as Woody, shoot people, steal vehicles, and wreak all kinds of havoc. And I think it's just a very individualized experience, because there's no other game that's doing that. And so that concludes my presentation. Do I just tab over next, or is that? Nope. Pass it over? All right. That's all I
got. That's a.
What do you think, gents?
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Is there an argument, really?
I thought you were going to turn for a second and be like, no, I'm only kidding.
No. No jokes.
Honestly, I stopped listening after you triggered the Tomba 2 thing. I'm out.
Who made that game?
Avalanche made it.
Avalanche, like Utah Avalanche.
Yeah. They went ahead afterwards and they made Disney Infinity.
Oh, okay.
This was like the synthesis of it, right? From there, they moved on to expand it, but special game.
Yeah, and now they're doing Hogwarts. So that's actually a pretty legit studio.
Yeah, they did a really good job with it, but
is that where
no one's debating me? I thought I was going to sit down and get attacked. Everyone's in agreement.
Well, is that where your mind went immediately when you got this task?
Absolutely.
Because in mine, I'll talk about it in my own presentation, but of the differentiation for me in categorizing like favorite and best or more important or whatever, greatest,
Of course.
like how we even define that term. Because it could be your favorite game, but how could that possibly be the greatest game?
Matty, get him. No, see, here's the thing, right? You used logic. That's the problem here. You took notes, you took it seriously. For me personally, I think my word is law at the end of the day. No. I think that really, it may be my favorite, but it's because I have good taste. But at the end of the day, I think that just the experience speaks for itself. Where if you hand Woody a gun and he can take a vehicle, that's it.
So you like that he's Tommy Vercetti, basically.
That's it, yeah. That's it, man. Like,
it's all right. Hey, what are you doing?
It's my mic. It's my mic.
We're good.
Sounds right. He's good.
Sounds good now that you're not touching it anymore.
It'll probably be easier to debate mine when we got more games in the mix.
Sure.
Because I feel like that's why I was shocked I was first. I don't know if Ben planned this out where I got to look like the fool up front. And we got everyone in back of me like at these legit presentations.
What was the idea of putting him first?
You'll find out.
That is horrifying.
It's like half of my emails.
There is a
with these guys,
purpose
I'm like,
here. Just remember that when you're voting. That's the important part, right?
I'll tell you after. I'll tell you after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's cryptic and
You're so
horrifying.
cryptic.
I feel not at ease.
See, I've never even seen Toy Story 3, so.
The movie?
The movie. I'm sorry. Disney's so cool.
And there you have it.
As an animator, how do you feel about that?
I'm not
that's a
happy about
masterpiece.
it. I'm not happy. I get it, they're toys. They walk around.
Buzz guy, but obviously neither.
Does anyone have anything that they want to say about this before we maybe attempt to move on?
Oh,
This gentleman
boy.
here in the penguins hat.
Uh-oh. Okay.
As Woody and Buzz that use guns.
Correct.
Does Woody not use a gun in Kingdom Hearts 3?
Oh no!
Kick him out! Kick him out! Kick him out! I don't like that.
Does he? I honestly don't remember.
Yeah, it's a pretty forgettable game. Like,
It honestly is. It's sad. It's unfortunate, but.
I'd rather play Toy Story 3 than Kingdom Hearts.
yes, you would.
Wait a second. Wait. Doesn't Buzz Lightyear literally have like a laser?
Yeah, but in that he had a gun, right? There's difference between like this and then a full-on assault rifle.
Right. A 6-shooter.
Yeah. It's a tight third-person shooter. It controls really well. You've got dodge buttons and everything.
There was another hand down here. Did someone have a hand down? Oh, please.
I promise not to make you regret this.
He's standing up.
No. This is irrelevant. This is irrelevant.
Oh.
GTA 5 has mods. I've seen Woody with a gun for about 10 years.
Okay.
That is a good
We're talking
point.
from the ground up here, right? The original product started off with Woody with the gun. Before we had mods that brought the Woody and the gun. Right, really, the guns were already there, so you brought Woody to the gun.
GTA 5 has gone across 3 generations, and I can still be Woody across all of them.
What?
And still shoot guns.
No.
I feel bad because
I don't even accept that.
I feel bad because I don't know, like, should I really body this game right now, or is it just, or do we just know that it's going to lose? Like, we don't want to scare Matty away. The Fighting Duke's too important.
Nothing intimidates me.
That's just such an interesting choice. I'm going to be befuddled by this for some time now.
It'll make sense when everyone shows their serious picks after me.
I feel like you need some defense right now, Matty. And I'm really happy because I played that game based on your recommendation 6 months ago. I thought it was going to suck, and it was amazing. What?
Okay.
So I feel like people are being a little unfair to you right now because they haven't played the game.
That's the thing.
But do you think it's the greatest game of all time? Do you think that? Stand up and say it if you do.
He wants you to say it with your chest.
You won't.
With your chest behind it.
Take a seat, Herb.
I'll give you some cash after this.
Toy Story 3 is the greatest game.
You're gonna have to Venmo him for that.
Yeah, give me a Venmo after this.
All right. I don't want to talk about Toy Story 3 anymore. What's next?
All right. Could you give me my notes, Ben? Please.
I will indeed.
Thank you.
Would you like your water bottle cracked too?
I actually haven't cracked it yet, so that actually would be kind of nice. Just saying. But, so yeah. Let's get this going. So, let's open this up. Face ID. It never works. All right. So, the year 2011. I was in 11th grade. Good times, you know? And this was a really important year for RPGs. For example, Skyrim. Of course, everyone knows and loves it. Matty can't stop talking about it all the time. You know, he's going to buy it a 12th time later this year.
It's true.
There's Witcher 2, Assassin of Kings, of course, the predecessor to a legendary game, of course, with The Witcher 3. We had some not so good ones, Dragon Age 2, for example. But either way, a great year for RPGs. Now, all of these games are, of course, played by dorks and nerds that look like this.
This picture will haunt me for the rest of my life.
One game, though, in 2011, changed the industry forever.
Ooh.
And that is Dark Souls. 2011 was an era where the games industry was pushing for more casualization, right? With the Wii, the Kinect, people thought that smartphones were going to be the next console. Dark Souls during this time pushed the boundaries. No doubt, of course, there are better From Software games. Bloodborne, of course, as you guys know, is one of my favorite games ever. But Dark Souls is really the genesis of it all. Obviously, Demon's Souls 2 before it, but this is where it really came together. Now, I want to highlight 3 key areas on how Dark Souls really changed things up. The first one, of course, is difficulty. And I wanted to do this by reading a couple quotes from the director of the game, Miyazaki. He says, in the intention behind the high difficulty of the games, I direct to evoke a feeling of joy and accomplishment in the player when they overcome these challenges. Now, you hear joy and accomplishment, you think of EA. Totally different. This is not Star Wars Battlefront 2. And from the You Died, the Dark Souls Companion, which is just like the best book name ever. He said, quote, the main concept behind the death system is trial and error. The difficulty is high but achievable. Everyone can achieve without all that much technique. All you need to do is learn from your deaths how to overcome the difficulties. Overcoming challenges by learning something in the game is a very rewarding feeling. And that's what I wanted to prioritize in Dark Souls and Demon's Souls. And because of the online gameplay systems, you can even learn from something from somebody else's death. I'd say that was the main concept behind the online aspects too. So Dark Souls obviously isn't the first tough but fair game, but it brought it back to the mainstream in a way that no one had seen in years. So the other element, of course, is the story presentation. And we love our cinematic experiences like God of War, Metal Gear Solid, and these are great. But at the end of the day, these are experiences that are designed to be like another medium, movies. And Dark Souls is able to present its story in a way that is unique to gaming. And so on the surface of a Dark Souls story, or Demon's Souls or Bloodborne or even Sekiro, it may feel a little flat, like it's like, okay, what's even going on? But it gives you that spark of, okay, what's going on with this? Who is this boss? Who is this character here? And so it encourages players to dive deeper. And you see YouTubers like Vati Vidya, who is like millions and millions of hits on all of his videos. So the level that these games inspire the fans to dive in more is just really, really incredible. The final element, of course, is its online multiplayer. And you guys are going to have to listen to this little story also from Miyazaki, because I didn't know this until I was researching this presentation. And this is how he got the idea for the co-op system in this game. He said, the origin of that idea is actually due to a personal experience, where a car suddenly stopped on a hillside after some heavy snow and started to slip, said Miyazaki. The car following me also got stuck. And then the one behind it spontaneously bumped into it and started pushing it up the hill. That's it. That's how everyone can get home. Then it was my turn and everyone started pushing my car up the hill, and I managed to get home safely. But I couldn't stop the car and say thanks to the people who gave me a shove. I'd get stuck again if I had stopped. On the way home, I wondered whether the last person in line had made it home and thought that I would never meet the person who had helped me. I thought that maybe we'd meet in another place and we'd become friends, or maybe we'd fight. You probably could call it a connection of mutual assistance. Miyazaki, man, he's a crazy dude. You probably could call it a connection of mutual assistance between transient people. Oddly, that incident would probably linger in my head for a long time, simply because it was fleeting. I think it stays with you a lot longer, like the cherry blossoms we Japanese love so much. He had to make it a little poetic there at the end, of course. So, how many of here have played a Souls game before? And how many of you have that story of the time you finally beat the boss with someone you don't know? And you have that moment where they do the wave. Or in Dark Souls 3, you drop the thing, it's, hello, thank you, that, right? Like, these are moments, this is why this series is so beloved. And of course, I didn't even get into the when someone invades your world. Sometimes that can be like this awesome, heroic moment, or of course, very frustrating. So those are the three main points, but, oh, too far. Okay. Of course, the incredible follow-ups, Bloodborne, one of the absolute best games of the PS4 generation. Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I have the Platinum, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew. Colin, Woo! Platinum. And we're just going to forget about Dark Souls 2. Of course, the impact on the industry, though, is huge. Look at these 4 direct, I don't want to say direct, but these are copy games that are very, very closely tied to Dark Souls, is no doubt about it, right? Some more successful than others. Of course, the Souls-like indie boom is huge as well, and these are just some of the games that have directly been inspired by Dark Souls. Of course, like Hollow Knight, Dead Cells, Ender Lily is one of Colin's favorites now.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All awesome games that are clearly inspired by this one man's vision. And then, of course, last, the impact on AAA. I mean, God of War, of course. These games are directly, the developers said, we were inspired by Dark Souls and what Miyazaki had done. And it really hasn't let up. Since 2011, we continually get new Dark Souls-style games from developers, and they keep getting better. So, of course, we have Elden Ring on the way. But until then, praise the sun.
Very well done. Very well done.
Was it academic enough for you?
That was very compelling.
Thank you.
Yeah, very, very well done. Now, I liked what you had to say. I'm writing copious notes, like as if this is sacred symbols, of course. I like what you say about, first of all, I must say, the way you ended it was compelling. I actually think that that's like a winning argument, which is all that it's done for everything around it. In fact, we were talking about it on the recent episode about how Soulsborne or Souls-like is like a term of art now. In fact, I saw it on PSN for the very first time, not a proper noun, but lowercase, as a description of a game in the on its PSN write-up. So it's crossed over. It's Metroidvania now. And so if you can make the argument about Super Metroid or Castlevania Symphony of the Night or one of those, which maybe one of us will, then you can certainly make the argument for Dark Souls. So very well done.
Thank you.
A little more compelling than perhaps Toy Story.
That wasn't very hard.
They will speak.
They will. You pay these people off or something?
So YouTube money.
It is. It is. But Dig, I was looking at you during this because you're not super familiar with
No,
with,
but I realize
yeah.
now, vis-a-vis the knockback rules, we could play now.
Yep.
As if Colin could beat Dark Souls. I'm sorry, you were so nice to me, but it just he swung it up for me. He tried to make fun of me for Returnal.
It's fine. I'm not mad about it because the honest answer is that when I was at IGN, I think in 2013, longtime fans might remember, I took a week off from work just to play Dark Souls. I don't know if you guys remember that, and I could not play it.
Wow.
I'm just not good at it. There was a thing early on where a dragon comes down a bridge and I was like, I don't know what the fuck you want. I was like, this is just not fun to me at all.
Now we'll have another chance.
But I did get pretty far in I actually almost beat Bloodborne, but then I got distracted. So that was a little bit of a disappointment to me. But I also liked how you brought up the other games.
Yes.
The Surge, Code Vein, and all the others that certainly come from it. Ender Lilies is a great example. Hollow Knight, certainly much harder than Ender Lilies. Let's hear from the audience, though. Where are you? Ben? Anyone want to say something about this? Oh, we have a gentleman right here in the front.
Be there in a minute.
Dustin, great job.
Thank you.
But the one thing I want to bring up is, right at the beginning of your argument, you did say right away that there are better games in the series. And this is the greatest game argument, not the most influential game argument. So I think if this was the most influential game argument, you made a great point.
I love what
but
I'm
you
hearing.
did say the greatest. It is the greatest.
Sure, I think that's a fair argument to make, but I don't know. This is the genesis of the ideas that spurred, thousands of developers to make stuff. I mean, I don't know. I feel like if I did a presentation about Bloodborne, then I would just be like, well, they started this in Dark Souls. They started this in Demon Souls. They started this there. So I don't know. That was my thinking. Ben, my original game, wherever he is, the original game I told him was Bloodborne. And I was really excited about that. And as I started to do the research.
Are you sure?
So as I was doing it, I was thinking about it. I was like, well, it really doesn't make sense to do that if we're talking about the greatest game of all time. I mean, why couldn't the greatest game of all time be the most influential as well? I mean, that certainly is an aspect of it, at least to me.
Well, is it influential, or is it another one of these situations where it's like, oh, Crash Bandicoot's real hard. It's kind of, it's a little Souls-like.
Right. It is. I mean, it is funny though how Souls. It's like, oh, it's like Dark Souls. The difficult.
Yeah.
If any game that's hard now is Dark Souls. But
it is true. Why is that? It almost has become like a cop-out. In some sense, what would really marry Ender Lilies to Souls other than its difficulty? Almost nothing. As opposed to Dead Cells, which is a little more tethered because it's a little more about permanent death and all that kind of stuff, or at least dying and losing your souls. It's interesting because I was going to ask you why not Bloodborne, but then also it could be asked why not Demon Souls.
Right. I considered that as well, and of course, I mean, Demon Souls is fantastic. I mean, the remake is awesome, but again, it's this culmination of ideas. Like Demon Souls has a lot bigger, more significant issues. Like it's not one cohesive open world. That's actually almost a point that I made, was the Metroidvania-like progression through the world, how it's all connected, and the moment when you go through a cave and you realize you're somewhere that you have been before. I have no idea where I was going with this, so we're just going to leave it there.
Ben, where are you? Anyone else want to say something about... we have someone maybe... Oh, okay. I'm going to leave it to you, Ben.
So Dustin, how is Dark Souls better than Persona 5 Royal, and how dare you not pick?
Oh, well, I mean, here's the thing where Persona 5 is great, of course, but I can't argue that it's the greatest game of all time for everybody, because I mean, Chris is here and he can barely even look at it. So
that is true. It hurts me.
Don't bash the microphone on the ground.
Dark Souls
ran terribly on the PlayStation 3 when it originally came out. How would you put that in your argument in terms of technical problems?
Checkmate, idiot.
No. Yeah, this is really frustrating, and I honestly don't have any counter argument. I mean, you hear me all the time talk about how Bloodborne is stuck on PS4 at 1080p, and it's not even running at an actual 30 FPS. It hurts me, and I cry at night when I think about the state of Bloodborne. So that is a great argument. But I would say there are many great ways to play it now, thankfully. We got to get Bloodborne there, though, still. But Dark Souls Remastered is great.
How can it be the greatest game of all time if nobody has ever beaten it?
How do we? I don't know. Nobody. Dang.
You had to go to the stats on PSN profiles like I did.
But could you imagine, Dag, like we often talk on Knockback about how we used to write down the games we would beat on a like a piece of paper.
Have a running
We
list.
literally could write whatever we wanted on that. No one would have ever have known.
No,
So imagine a game
and I
like,
did.
Imagine a game like Dark Souls back then where everyone would have just lied about having beaten it. There would have been nothing to hold you to it.
It was like the Battletoads of. Well, Battletoads was the.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right?
Dark Souls was Ben.
Ben?
You're not ready. Ben, I have to take my shirt off. So I apologize for any feedback, Mr. Furman. I apologize for any feedback.
Wait, not yet.
Not yet.
This is me.
Oh, this is you. I'm sorry.
He's very anxious to take his shirt off.
I'm just looking at the Moriarty.
You're just so used to seeing that
There
last
are
name.
two of us, right? All right. This has a line one.
I appreciate your eagerness, though.
I was going to say, I'm free to take it off.
I'm just pressing the over button, right? The button to the right. A little bit of a latte. All right, so I obviously came up with this idea, and I was racking my brain about what I wanted to do. Now, I don't have an ornate slideshow for any of you, mostly because I have no idea what I'm doing on a computer. But I wanted to, the thing that was bothering me the most when I was coming up with my idea was how can we structure this so that it makes sense? Like, how can I argue for this? And so when I was doing this, I made this list. When you're talking about the greatest video game of all time,
Oh dear.
it must meet all of these criteria.
Here we go. Here we go.
Objectivity and quality, for instance, we can talk about that, and we will. Accessibility, but in a general sense. An industry player that has to outdo him or herself over and over again as opposed to a one-off, and all of the rest. And so I wanted to be a little selfish and be like, well, what kind of ridiculous Colin game could I put on this and make the argument for it? But I'm like, that's not a good idea. Instead, I'll just make the obvious choice. Super Mario.
I'm very surprised.
Now, Super Mario World, if you had it on Super Famicom 1990, we did. Super Nintendo, of course, 1991, a launch game. And a bundle-in game, is, I would argue, if we're talking specifically about gameplay, which we do when we're talking about playing games, of course, then I don't know that any game feels better than Super Mario World. Still to this day, 30 years later, unbelievably. And so I wanted to just go through each of these and just explain why. And then you can try to pick a hole in my argument if you want, but you won't be able to. So we talk about objectivity versus subjectivity in quality. I feel like I'm back at Northeastern. This is really weird. So we talk about objectivity versus subjectivity in games, and we always talk about this. This is a huge snafu in reviews where people put too much of one or the other. But I think we can all agree that a game can be widely considered to be something without it being for us necessarily, and that when a game also bundles in with a console and a game or a console is so reliant on a game, it becomes 10 times more important. I mean, think about how important a pretty mediocre game like Duck Hunt is, right, on NES. It's not a very good game. In fact, I don't know that many people would have gone out and bought it, but it came with the light gun, it came with the NES, and we all enjoyed it, of course, Super Mario World, Track and Field, and all the rest. So the objectivity and quality, I don't know that anyone would anyone dispute Super Mario World being one of the greats. Think about SNES and Genesis. I always talk about this, right? Think about that beleaguered, horrifying Genesis, right? And think about this golden boy Super Nintendo. And Genesis was so bad that they had to like reboot the whole thing and pretend that they didn't launch, right? They launched obviously 2 years before in 1989. It came with like Alex Kidd or something like that. No one cared. And then they're like, oh no, the console came out in 1991. Here's Sonic the Hedgehog. And they were like, even as a young man in the elementary school recess yard, I knew that something was amiss. So accessibility. We have Dagan and I actually 2 of them are your kids. So you have 4 nieces and nephews. I have 6 nieces and nephews. And it's fun watching them interact with kids. Dagan's son, Graydon, is by far the nerdiest of all of us. And he's a little Colin, actually. He plays Nintendo like it's new. He loves Switch, which I think if I was his age, I probably would have been far up Switch's ass. And so I like watching, especially our sister Dana's boys play. They play the SNES Classic, the NES Classic. I lend them all my games. And these games are just, they're pick up and play as if they just came out. Imagine a child 8, 9, 10 years old playing, Fortnite and then jumping in and wanting to play Super Mario World and how nice that is. Now, I'm a little detached because I don't have children, but I feel like you wouldn't be able to give a kid Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy VII or Dark Cloud or something like that and have them want to play it today, like they play one of these games as well. And when you look at it, it's been everywhere. Of course, we remember Super Mario Advance 2 on GBA, the Wii U Virtual Console. And my favorite, and Dig, you'll appreciate this, I'm pretty sure the first re-released game ever from Nintendo in Super Mario All-Stars in the AAA variety. We had a Ninja Gaiden collection later on SNES, but I think that was the next year. And of course, you can use an emulator or a ROM too. I don't give a fuck what you do. And so, industry player. This is one thing I kind of wanted to nail down. Think about a game like Minecraft. Obviously, a ubiquitous game, 150 million units sold or something like that. Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar. But when you think about repeatability, Grand Theft Auto has just been released over and over again. Even when you think about Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2, which we love. That game's not really iconic because it's something different. It's iconic because it's really, really good. I feel like with an industry player like Nintendo, they have to do it over and over again. They're competing with themselves over and over again. You can imagine a game like Minecraft coming out of Nintendo and it's slipping through the cracks because it would be so incidental compared to a lot of the talented, the great stuff that the talented Nintendo EAD did, which I think was R&D4 at one point. Imagine being the studio that made Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 3, The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Super Mario 64, and so on and so forth. And then you also come out with something like Super Mario World. And I wanted to look just to see what other people considered this. Now, it's a little, I think I actually participated in that 100 SNES list at IGN, so I was surprised that it wasn't more well received. But I feel like when you're considering its native platform, no one disputes that this game is one of its best. In fact, I would argue, and I think we will in a moment, that it's easily the best bundled-in game of all time. And it's superior to its sequel, which is pretty well regarded on the console as well. And it must stand the test of time. I mean, this is an ancient game. Think about Mario 3 and the evolution of it. Think about how many pieces of hardware it's graced. And think about the bundled-in games that have also come out in Nintendo. Wii Sports, right? Super Mario 64, an early game. Of course, we were talking about Super Mario Brothers early. So imagine just in that pantheon how much better it is. And of course, the relevance. I couldn't believe this when I was looking this up. Mario games have sold 750 million copies in 40 years. And the Super Mario series, beginning on NES in 1985, Famicom 1984, 400 million units alone. And like I said, Call of Duty has been outsold pretty much twice over, with a game every year. And usually a Call of Duty game since 2003, I think with the exception of 2004 and maybe 2011 or 2012, is the best-selling game of every one of those years. And it's still sold twice as many. And then, of course, you have Pokemon and Grand Theft Auto. I don't know if anyone would disagree with this. When I went and did History of Naughty Dog and talked to those guys over there, I was talking to the founders of the company. And they were talking about Q-scores, which I think you guys probably know about. And they were saying that it was a huge deal for Sony because it was the only time in history when Crash Bandicoot first came out that Crash had a Q-score or an identifiability score higher than Mario. But I don't know that, with the exception of Mickey Mouse, is there any character that would be more recognizable? And therefore, when you're tracing it back to a game, could you make the argument that Super Mario World is just that relevant game? And of course, the demonstrable effect. Think about 16-bit side-scrollers and platformers. the evolution of 8-bit design, non-linearity in secret stages, the Star World, multiplayer, unlocking blocks and backtracking. This is a template that we still use in gaming today. And when you think about its cast of characters, which is kind of an evolution of what happened with Super Mario 3 and the airships, with the exception of Mega Man and maybe Castlevania, some of the series we loved, there was no group of villains. Remember, the Koopa Kids would become something later on. It really began in Mario 3, but it really became something that was continuous in Super Mario World. And I feel like that was something that really helped the game resonate. Oop, let me go back this way, sorry. And it's still considered a generational great as well. Think about the various formulas for 2D Mario and 3D Mario, and think about the best games on the various consoles that people usually consider them, an Uncharted 2 on PS3, a Halo on the original Xbox. Could we not say that Super Mario World stands up to those games and surpasses them in every way? And so that's it. That's the end. Woo! Woo! And that box art, by the way, it's just so, I mean, it's so good. It was so exciting. I mean, some of you were old enough, some of you weren't, but it was so exciting to get this game. And I always think about it. Like, I always want to go back and play it. It's one of those games that you know over and over again. I can make the case maybe for a Mega Man 3 or something that I really love, but this is the game for everyone. When I think about a game where I want to hand it to my mother or I want to hand it to someone that's never played a game, someone that's unfamiliar with something, a young child, an older person, I feel like this game can kind of teach you everything. It won't teach you sticks or 3D navigation, but it'll certainly teach you, I think, what video games are all about, why they're fun, why they're important, why they're timeless, why Nintendo continues to be one of the absolute stellar companies, even though they refuse to have a trophy system. All right, I'll take a seat now. Thank you. Dagan. Yeah, Dagan. I just want to ask Dagan real quick. I mean, we have memories of this game.
Oh my God.
What did you think that I was going to select this game?
No, I thought for sure, I was telling Matty I had 4 guesses, but my 2 top guesses were Castlevania 3 and Mega Man 3, maybe. So this was, I know how much you love this game because we talked about it on the show. But yeah, you said it. It's, you know, it seems like a logical progression from Mario 3 on the NES 2. Like, you already saw some of the appeal on display with what they could do. You know, it was colorful, it was inviting, it was accessible, but also the physics, you know, how it's simple and inviting and accessible, but also complex, you know, and also Mario 3, you guys will remember, for those few of you who are old enough to remember it during its contemporary time, you couldn't save on Super Mario 3. So you had to play it all the way through or shut it off and start all over again.
Use the whistles,
so
yeah. I mean, that's
right, exactly. You could warp. But this was actually, you could actually do, this was taking it to the next level. And now you could also save, which was exciting because it was like, all right, now I could actually not have to start from the beginning every time I pop it in, which was a big thing back then.
And I remember too, just the excitement of, like, I remember breaking the game open basically. I think we got the Nintendo Power strategy guide that came with it. And just like how much, like just beating a stage a certain way, going the wrong way in a stage, unlocking a block, for some reason, it just really cracked open in me, like this excitement and I guess this stymieing of imagination that some games bring up. This game wanted to just burst everything out of you. It was pleasurable to play. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was, everything about it was cute. Everything about it is perfect. It's a 10. I mean,
it's a great choice.
Thank you. I know it is. I know. Do we have anyone in the audience that wants to give props? Right,
Nobody's going to argue with them.
No, please do argue with me. I love it. We do the call-in shows where I insist that you guys argue with me. None of you do. That's a great question.
Good question.
Because I feel like there's a level of pretension in games and in all art, right? And it's kind of what you're discussing. And it's funny you bring this up because when I was trying to, again, qualify like what the greatest game would be, the first game I really thought of when I was first marinating on it was a game called Space War, which was a game played on an oscilloscope and in like the 50s at Brookhaven National Laboratory and on Long Island. And I was going to bring that up because I was like, this is the first time that anyone thought to like give game a visual flair. They used to play games with punch cards, dice rolls. It's awesome when you think about the old computer mainframe games. And these guys were like, no, let's hook a fucking oscilloscope up to the mainframe and we can see dots. And I was like, that's incredible. And but at the same time, it would be a pretentious answer because it doesn't meet the accessibility. In fact, it's one of the great laments in gaming history that the original oscilloscope that was built on, they just threw it away. So we only know that it existed. It doesn't actually exist anymore in its original format. So it's a great question, but I think it's true. Like, I agree with you and I don't, because you think about classical music and maybe that would be inaccessible or some great operatic pieces or whatever, but also you think about like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, right? Like stuff that's incredibly accessible today, or even contemporary stuff, or more contemporary stuff, Jay-Z or Dre or something like that. Like Eminem, things are like that are just accessible from 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I don't know, it's a good inquiry, but I think I've successfully rebutted it.
Hey guys. So what I was thinking about is the timelessness of this game. I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm 28, but my older brother had a Super Nintendo, so I have a Super Nintendo. I played this game as a kid, as a teenager, as an adult. I've beaten it 100 times. You know, you bury this game in the sand for 1,000 years, you play it, it's going to bring that same joy. And as much as I love Toy Story 3, because I do love that game.
Of course.
At some point, that game's going to be an eyesore for people, right? You know, like, gaming.
What are you doing, man?
You almost agree.
It's a point in gaming where that probably, we won't be able to tolerate something like that anymore. Like,
Yeah, I agree, and I think we say it a lot on the shows, but just that yeah, like you say, that polygonal era N64 PS1, it's hard to recommend. But when you think about the late cartridge era leading into the 3D era, of course, therefore that stuff would be the best, because it's the tail end of one thing before the start of another. But maybe we'll feel that way about the polygonal games that come out when they're like really lifelike one day. But I hope not, because I feel like there's something more magical about 2D games too.
So I guess if we can come back to the accessibility topic for a second, I think something we're missing is the idea that Mario World you can play it on multiple levels, if you will, right? Like, so the 9-year-old kid can get it for Christmas, start playing through the levels, believes they're beating the game, and they're having a great time. But the master player is accessing the secrets, is finding the ways you can traverse the level, entirely in the air, or blah, blah, blah. And that's another level of enjoyment, right? It's another like key into the access. So I think that's something that like video games as a medium offers over a film or something is, okay, it can be accessible from multiple facets at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. Great point. There's something, I don't know, that to me this seems like a very safe and good and equitable choice for everyone. I feel like it's going to win.
It's too safe.
It's too safe, yeah.
Unambitious.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's too safe. It has to lose points for that, just by default. It's too safe.
Fair enough.
I have a 3-part question, and then I'll hang up and listen. First, did you mixing numbers and bullets in your outline structure, was that a smoke and mirror attempt to confuse your constituents?
Probably, yeah.
Probably, okay.
Yeah. What's sad is that I noticed that, and I was reading it like just now, but I was reading it like over and over and over again. It reminds me of why you need editors.
Fair. Second, was your choice influenced by your journey and evolution from saying Mario to now Mario?
Yeah, it could be. You know what's interesting about that? I'm a little bitter that I let go of, and I let them beat that out of me at IGN, because it's kind of like a nice little New York flavor that I would have liked to have back. It's gone. I mean, I don't naturally say it like that anymore. They used to make fun of me so badly and it made me feel like an asshole. It was certain other things, like I remember not knowing that id Software was id, because I never heard anyone say it. I thought it was ID, and other things like that.
So you said Mario is a New York thing?
Yeah, well, Mario.
Yeah, that's New York.
It's a Mario Italian.
That's official
It's
New
Italian
York.
thing. Yeah, Mario.
Yeah, that's official New York.
I don't think
I can
that's
co-sign
true.
that.
I was going to say, Colin, for like 5 episodes, you call it Man of Medan. So I think there might just be a naming thing that's going on.
Just because I refuse to try to speak with anything with like a French accent. That's way too European for me. By the way, just as a complete aside, Dustin has a bidet in his
I
house.
do. It's very nice.
It's very cosmopolitan.
That's an applause.
That's
But
neither-
Colin
that's
won't
neither-
use it. I texted him. He was on the way here, and I said, "Colin, are you ready for the bidet?" And he said, "I can't do that." That's all it said. I said, "I believe in you." I don't know if he's used it. I haven't asked.
I'm too creeped out by bidet because you have like it's a toilet bowl like right out of Japan. When you go to Japan, these are the toilet bowls that are.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
but they scare me because I'm like, the water coming out of this tickles someone else's ass, and now it's like using an upside down water. I know, but the water pops up and then some of it certainly pops back down.
No, it self-cleans, dude. No.
You know, it's like when people are shooting guns in the air and every once in a while one comes down.
He's right.
No. Listen. It does this thing. It knows when you sit on it that it
This
does
big.
and it cleans itself.
Yeah, sure.
It's like a robot.
I don't know how this came up, but it is far too European.
We should move on.
Yeah, well, let's move on. Where are you, Ben?
So
Yeah.
then
yeah.
I actually have an aside related to both of these.
That neither of those was an aside?
Yeah. And my father is from Italy, and his name is Mario. And the first time that he took us back to Italy, my brother convinced me that the bidet was a toilet, was a drinking fountain. And so I drank it.
No.
My final third part
That shouldn't be a
is-
problem, though. That shouldn't be a problem because it's clean.
My final third part, Colin, is how did 2D influence your choice for the greatest game, excluding that third dimension?
I don't. It's impossible for me to imagine that the best game of all time would be a 3D game. It's just because it's not the essence. 3D is not really the essence of video games to me. I don't know. I love 3D games, but I'm a 2D purist on a 2D plane. That's the best place to play. It's kind of like any of you guys familiar with that game, that book House of Leaves? It's like 15 years old. It's like a horror book written. You like that book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's written in such a way where it's like, there'll be like an empty page, and then you'll turn it, and then it'll be like a word on a page, and then you'll turn it, and it'll be like words like in a staircase as they go down the stairs. And I'm like, that's cool, but that can't possibly be the best book of all time. Like, is this really like Dune or Great Expectations or some of these books we were talking about at your house? No, of course not. It's just cool. And I kind of feel like 3D is the same thing. Until we have more lifelike 3D, there's just more artistic merit, I think, in 2D. Imagine what you need to do to get a game like that to operate in a aesthetic way, and all the favors you have to ask from the player in order to believe it. It's kind of cool. I like it. Where are you, Ben? Oh, there you go.
I'm always right here.
Always right behind you.
Appreciate it. Hey!
Wow. I am not qualified to do this at all. So we're obviously here talking about the greatest games of all time. We've each brought different things. I don't know what the hell you were doing, but
Ben put me first, man.
But
I got sabotaged.
I brought something a little bit different. I have brought something that you're probably not used to hearing, and that is an objectively correct opinion. That might be, I've had plenty of these. I'm sure many of you know this. But, when we first decide, what is the greatest game of all time, we first have to ask, what makes a game the GOAT? What makes a game the greatest game of all time? I think, Colin might say. Colin might say, oh, a good trophy list makes a game the greatest game of all time. I think that's still a bit silly for these reasons. We're not going to go into it. Meritocracy is a lie. It's all fucked up. But Colin has a right to love trophies. God bless him. We love him for it. But I do think sometimes it clouds his judgment on the games that he chooses to play. Not to make this political, but Colin and I talk shit about Sonic the Hedgehog regularly on the show. We've cut back because the Twitter account is a little scary. Yeah. But after a little cursory research, I actually found that Colin actually got all 35 all 35 trophies on the Sonic collection from 2009. That is an S rank. 20% of Sonic fans got this. So, you know, I don't believe in cancel culture. Do with that information what you will. This is a photo of Keith David because I think he's great and I just want to show him to you. But back to the question at hand. What makes a game the GOAT? Dustin might say, I couldn't find a good picture of Dustin, so I used Screech from Saved by the Bell and Celebrity Fit Club. Rest in peace, I forgot he died, but it's a pain in the ass to edit the slides. So Dustin might say, oh, Japan. You might say, oh, Japan. Or like, you know, Dustin might also say, you know, for some reason, I need anime and Disney to be in the same thing, creating this monstrosity. This is the world Dustin wants. And I can't abide by that. I think a little bit differently. That's a far nicer picture of me, obviously. But I think that, you know, the greatest game of all time needs to be a genre-defining piece of the genre that it's a part of. I think it needs to be a pinnacle of that genre and nothing less. I think the greatest game of all time needs to have an art style and art direction that ages gracefully, so that no matter how graphics technology evolves in the far future, it remains perpetually beautiful and aesthetically immortal. I think the greatest game of all time needs to be easy to pick up and you know, difficult to master. And I also think the greatest game of all time can never die. It can only go missing in action. Obviously, I'm talking about Tetris, but hold on a second. Tetris is Russian, and the Russians stole the election, so instead we're going to go for the next obvious greatest game, Halo 3, obviously. America. I didn't time this for applause. America, hoorah, you know. I'm sure a lot of you are probably surprised by this. Wow, Chris picked Halo, I want a refund, is probably what you're thinking. But I think I actually have a lot of reasons why this is the case. I think Halo 3 meets my criteria. I think it's genre-defining, I think it's aesthetically immortal, I think it's complex and simple at the same time, and I think it's a game that never dies. You know, we think about like how genre-defining Halo 3 is. We know that Halo Combat Evolved revolutionized controls for FPS on console. We know that Halo 2 revolutionized the virtual couch for console multiplayer, something that we all take for granted nowadays. And, you know, Halo 3 is a little bit different because I think it extends kind of beyond just simple innovations. I think that Halo 3 was a conduit for player expression. What I mean by that is Halo 3 gave players the opportunity to be creative with video games in 2007, the time when social media and online independent content was beginning to find its footing. And I think that opened the door for a very symbiotic relationship between video games and the internet that will probably never happen again. You know, just the fact that, you know, the Forge mode's map creation tools, for example, gave players so much freedom to create their own levels and create their own game modes. And Theater mode gave players the opportunity to detach the camera and create all sorts of like really interesting things. This was something that was beyond just a video game. I think Halo 3 is what Dreams tries to be sometimes, and like what Minecraft would eventually become. And this was 2 years earlier. You know, Forge and Theater, we got great custom games like you know, Duck Hunt. We had Fat Kid, Jenga Tower, all these fantastic game modes. But then you also had all these like companies and stories that just exist purely because people were having fun in Halo. Like, it makes no sense that that should ever be the case. And, you know, not to be, you know, hey, listen, not to prod the lawyers or anything, but I'm pretty convinced that, you know, Call of Duty and even Uncharted ended up aping Halo 3's story or theater mode. And I firmly believe that theater mode in Halo 3 specifically is the precursor to the photo mode that we all really enjoy in modern day Sony first-party releases. And some of us use that great power very irresponsibly. That's really fucked up.
That's good
I'm
stuff.
not kidding. But I think all right, well, the slides are getting all fucked up, but whatever. I think it's aesthetically immortal. I think the art style has evolved so beautifully. I think it remains just something that's towing this line of realism and cartoon, and it allows it to kind of still look really good, even alongside contemporary, lookers of modern day. And I just think it's such a beautiful game still, even though this is like a 2007 Xbox 360 game. Like, the art direction is on point. I don't think this will age poorly at all, like, sincerely. Like, it still looks so good. And the simplicity of the art design is not only there in the art, but it's also in the gameplay. It's a very simple game. It's not, you're not sprinting, or you're not like jetpacking around. You're not flying all over the place. You walk, you shoot, you punch, you throw a grenade. Sometimes you drive a little, and it's a little bit of fun. And just the combination of these simple mechanics, the robust sandbox, and the ridiculous physics just lead to some like ridiculous shit that I don't even know if I could really explain to you without just showing you just the absurd nonsense that isn't even that abnormal. Like, this is super easy to do. Oh, beautiful. Oh, look, what's gonna happen? I can't imagine. What's gonna happen? Oh, beautiful, he got him, even though he was completely disoriented. I really do think the simple mechanics, the robust sandbox, and the ridiculous physics, I think it keeps me coming back to Halo 3 just still to this day. And speaking of that longevity, a great game never dies. It is the year of our Lord, 2021, and Halo 3 is still getting new content. It's getting new maps and modes and armors and skins. Dude, like, these armors that are in this, like, that's not even in the game yet. Like, it's 2021 and there's still shit coming to it. This is a 2007 Xbox 360 game. A first-person shooter. Makes no sense that it's still survived this long. And it has, because it's just that goddamn good. And this is also, Keith David is in it also. So that, I think, wins. But in conclusion, I really do think Halo 3 is one of the greatest games of all time, if not the greatest. I think its art stands the test of time. I think its design stands the test of time. And if you don't agree with me, for some reason you look like this, that's fine. You're free. But I think, if you won't take my word for it, maybe you'll take Dustin's.
Very well done.
Well done.
That was surgery you performed, because you were able to dismantle two of them at the same time as pitching why Halo 3 was that good.
I do my best.
That was brilliant.
I know.
The point that I like the most that you made, of course, is about art style. This is like fresh in my mind because I just finished Halo 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing that, I mean, you could talk about the horrible amount of ammo you have, the weird story or whatever, but like...
It's just ugly.
Yeah, and it's funny because those games are like newer, and so a lot of times you think newer is better just automatically. And I think too, even, we've talked about this on Sacred, but the Halo CE Anniversary Edition is one of the most obvious examples of like, they made the game look technically better, but it also looks way worse.
It looks new, but it looks like, it just looks like what you would see if you were being beaten to death. It's like the last visual stimuli that you'll get. It's like, what is this mash of color? Wow, those are really realistic walls of a cellar ceiling, But it's just, I don't know, I think it really is like still a really beautiful game. And I think that, like Colin was saying, like I think art really is a big deal. I think that's why 2D games age so perfectly. But I think, Halo is like, specifically 3, it's just one of those examples of like a 3D game that just doesn't like, they ported it to PC and I remember thinking like, this looks great still. Like it had no problem. It's really special.
Cog, what do you think about this choice?
Love the inclusion of the theater mode. I like that reference and how things kind of built off of that. And you you don't see a lot of reference to Halo in that, and I'm glad you caught that. But yeah, I mean, it's iconic. We can't deny it. The randomness of certain encounters in multiplayer. It was definitely the culmination from 1 and 2, and then married both of the single player and the multiplayer components. So it was strong. I was feeling it, Chris. I see you.
Yeah, I was interested to see what you were going to pull. What do you? Because there are a few games that I thought maybe you'd make a case for it. Maybe Doom 2016.
There were a couple.
Yeah.
That I was toying around with, but I wanted to go obvious.
Halo 3 is a good choice. What do you think about that choice, Matty, being the Duke?
I'm not surprised, because I've talked to Chris extensively on Duke Ultimate about his love for Halo. We made a list, and at the top was Halo 3, and we just collectively agreed. So I kind of sat down expecting it had to be somewhere in the Halo franchise. It's just undeniable in a lot of ways, just the influence it's had since its release. I never even thought, not to piggyback Cog too hard, but like the theater mode was super impactful, I think, to just how games have become more marketable, just being able to share that experience quickly, and it really started there.
Yeah, Halo 3 was like a social media site, kind of.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
forgot
kind
about that.
It's kind of crazy.
The
Like they had a file
Bungie.net.
share, they had like
Yeah.
Bungie favorites. It's an insane how much it innovated just for games, but also just like the greater online space. And I don't think any other game has really done that, to the same degree, and especially at just like a perfect time. 2007, 2008, that was like really like, that's when I started my channel, and that's why, literally, because theater mode existed, and suddenly I had like, I have access to explosions and like, high, weapons and shit. Like I'm a child. I don't have access to like cool shit to make movies. And suddenly I did. And it was like really freeing and really cool. And it's the reason I'm literally sitting in front of you today. So take that for what you will. Also keep David, by the way.
Oh yeah, salute. I agree with you.
Let's hear from the audience. Anyone want to talk about this one?
Yeah, don't give it to him.
The terrorist.
Put that away, you animal. I don't care. I'd rather you didn't.
All right, so I wasn't convinced that it was going to be an objective truth until Halo 3 popped up. Halo 3 is definitively the greatest game of all time. But I wonder how I know you've ranked your Halo games. I wonder two things. First, the culmination of the story, which you didn't really tackle.
Right.
And you also touched a little bit on community, social media, but what it did for Bungie in terms of interacting with their very dedicated community.
Yeah, I didn't touch the story because I think I didn't touch the music either because I thought that would be too unfair. Because that's like, I didn't want to like win that hard, So, but like, yeah, I think the story is like, I do think 2 is a better narrative, personally. I think it's more engaging, but I think 3 is a very perfect wrap-up, and I think it ends things like really perfectly. There's no fat in Halo 3. It's very like short and to the point, and like it's short and sweet. There's like a lot of replayability in that like 6 to 8 hour experience, and I see people complaining a lot, not even about like Halo specifically, but just video games like, oh, why is it only 30 hours? And it's like, I've been playing like a 6-hour game for like years. Like you can have an amazing game that's like 6 hours long, and it'll always be better than like a mediocre game that's 50 hours long. Because those 6 hours are way more replayable and way more worth going back to than those 50 annoying hours. Like it's just, it gets good after the 15th hour. Fuck off. Go away.
That's Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah.
All right. Where are you, Ben? Yeah.
Making the rounds.
Yeah, we were talking about how we should have gotten like, if any of you are Catholic, like the baskets.
That's the collection plate.
You guys can leave a few bucks in there if you
So
want.
Chris, I just have a question about your presentation. Did you actually find a transparent image of Colin, or did you sit there for hours carving out his body on MS Paint?
I did find, that was just there. I looked up Colin Moriarty PNG and it was there. So like, and I was like, I can't not use this.
That's from when I was like Kind of Funny, that I took that picture and they were calling it, I think, Colin Moriarty creeping through or something. And there's like a meme, a meme for it.
It looks
you can
like
find, I think, the PNG there.
It looks like Bigfoot footage almost.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
yeah, exactly. Right. So then people would put me like in all these different shots.
It's a good. I'm glad it exists. There's no photos of you outside of the tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
Hassan Karaman.
He's here right now.
He is here right now.
Somewhere, one of you.
Hey guys.
Hey. Is that a Dolphins hat?
It is a Dolphins hat. There's
all
one
right.
more of us right there.
Wow. Wow, 2 out of 200.
That's tragic.
That's right.
Go on, I'm
Both
sorry, I didn't
miserable.
mean to interrupt you.
One of the funny things about 3 out of the 4 games that have been presented thus far is I played them for the first time ever this year in this slow year of releases. Sorry, Matty.
Yeah, I figured.
Toy Story 3. It's on the list now.
Okay, good.
Job done.
But one thing that yours stands apart, Chris, is that whereas the other 2 set up the series and they've reached new heights, you can make the argument that Halo 3 was the pinnacle and it's been downhill since.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you think that affects its legacy versus the other games that have been presented here today?
I don't know. I mean, that's a fair point. I think overall, as a series, I think things like Mario have obviously had like far more hits or home runs than strikes. Obviously, Halo 4 and 5 are not particularly good. But I don't think that affects the legacy of Halo 3. I think you saw it when they announced that, when they announced that the collection was coming to PC, everybody was flipping out. It was like a really big deal. And it's because it doesn't really matter how many times that series can be mined and people come in and they try to make something new and it's just I don't know if Halo Infinite's going to be, I have no fucking clue. But it's not going to affect Halo 3 at all because not only is it just so good that I don't think it could be affected by anything like that, but I also think because it's the end of the trilogy, I feel like it's so conclusive that it's so easy to just not even worry about those future and it's kind of even great movies like Terminator 2 is one of the greatest movies actually of all time, but Terminator's not a particularly good series.
Right.
It's
a good point. Correct.
It's and it's lauded still as one of those really high pinnacle points in the genre. And I think that's why Halo 3 will always be just something really special. Even if social media's evolved differently, it's not exactly you don't see machinima around anymore or anything like that. But I think its influence is really deeply felt, and I think it still resonates. I really do think photo mode is one of those things where people are why can't we detach the camera in video games? We could do it in Halo 3. Why couldn't we do that in any other? And then all right, well here you go, you got a photo mode now. And I honestly, to be fair, I don't even think photo mode is as good as theater mode was. I think it's kind of like a gimped version of it. So even today, Halo 3 still has modes and options that are just beyond some of the biggest AAA releases of modern day first party. Even within Microsoft's first party, which is they did it. So what? I don't know. I think again, it's just objectively correct.
Before we move on, I wanted to compliment you. Thank you for figuring out a way to stunt on me. I really like you making fun of my trophies for really no reason. I have no idea what that is. But I enjoyed that. Thank you. This reminds me a little bit of a roast like you see on Comedy Central, where it's just everyone goes up and it's just so they can make fun of everyone else.
I thought about not even picking a game and just doing that.
Just doing it right.
That's a problem.
That was actually planned to let them know it was time to move to the next thing.
Oh, good.
And
Aladdin? Oh my.
I see what we're doing.
I see what we're doing. It's that Fortnite character.
All right.
Actually, you hold on.
Okay, sure.
Just hit the right button.
The right one.
Thailand.
Dagan chose a 35-year-old game. That was a shock. Oh, wait, hold on. See who's old enough to get this reference. Put my quarters up.
All right.
OG talk. OG talk.
All right.
Let's go.
How do I look? All right.
Look great.
All right. Great questions and insights, by the way, today, guys. Don't do that to me. I'm frail, old. All right. So, let's see. All right. To begin, I'm old school, so not much PowerPoint crap. Little bit. Instead, I wrote this ultra cheesy Dr. Seuss styled rap. '92 is the year, a fighting game with no peer. Hey, I know you like my costume, but my eyes are up here. As I was saying. Pizza joint after school put our skills to the test. Mall arcade on the weekends to prove who was the best. Prideful victory or humiliating slaughter. Either way, you couldn't have a better time for a measly quarter. The finest game ever made, all the rumors are true, the mighty champion edition of Capcom's classic, Street Fighter II. Now gather round, children. Not ironic. Uncle Dag wouldn't lie. This game is truly the best. I'll give you 12 reasons why. A dozen characters in all, each one an icon in their own right. So let me break it down before the end. I think you'll see the light. Or Matty, I don't know. It's one of us. It's one of us. All right. Let's start with Chun-Li. She'll stomp your ass to the ground. Lethal spinning bird kick plus the best buns around. Ken's awesome red robes. Sorry, Ken. Ken's awesome red robes plus his flowing locks of blonde hair. There's Barbie's Ken and Capcom's Ken. I don't see much difference there. Here comes a 100-hand slap. Authentic sumo, no faking. E Honda's his name. Guess E Toyota was already taken. Am I right? Dalsim's freakishly distorted limbs, elongated and grotesque at that. You know, body horror. What? The kids friggin' love that. Next, a creepy green monster from the jungles of Brazil emits electric shocks, then chomps your face for the big kill. That sprite is something else. That doesn't hold up that well. Zangief might be your man. If you like your fighters slow and big, lots of wrestling maneuvers, and the world's largest chest wig. Just kind of covering it up there, but you can still kind of see it. Ryu's turn in the spotlight. Emo hero karate guy. Everybody loves Ryu, but not a single soul can tell you why. So weird. It's so strange. And then, what can you actually say about Guile? He has cool fatigues, and I like his punk rock hairstyle. Oh, hold on.
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
hold on.
Nope.
There he is. Sagat's a kickboxing brute. He'll put your skills to the test. He's got a scar and an eye patch. He's pretty cool. I mean, I guess. Vega's a boss character. You can play as him now, Championship Edition. He's got a mask and a Freddy claw. How is that fair? How? Next, we have Balrog. Tyson Proxy, fights in Vegas for the big bucks. You know, what can I can't even justify this character. He just completely sucks. M. Bison is the final boss. A total pain in the ass. What? I was blocking. How the hell is he so fast? All right, fine. Bad examples. But it just goes to show how this game's still so great, despite these characters that kind of blow. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming. I think the winner is clear. Dagan wins. Perfect. It seems my job is done here.
Very well done, Chun-Li. Surprised you didn't bring up that I named my cat Chun-Li in 1993.
Mom brought that up.
Yeah, everyone likes to bring that up. So this is a great choice. I had assumed you were going to pick this. This was a good choice. The only thing I wanted to ask was, what about Marvel vs. Capcom 2? Because I know you're a huge advocate of that game.
It was going to be a Street Fighter game, right? It was hard to pick a version. I was talking about that with Ben a little bit when I told him what I was going to. Actually, I think I initially told Ben I was going to pick the original. Then I realized 8 characters was kind of, it was exciting at the time, but then when we could play the boss characters and we could have mirror matches too, that was really the kind of probably that, you know, the version skip or jump that was the most dynamic. I really loved the new challengers too, and I loved the Street Fighter Alpha series, you know, the prequel, and you know, that was the biggest. That was probably the most dynamic push was the Alpha series because the characters now look different. They were younger versions. You know, Akuma came into the mix and everything like that. And then Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is one of my favorites. For me, it was hard to pick, even outside of Street Fighter, it was hard to go with a specific franchise because you think of Mario and Mega Man. I love Final Fantasy 6 and 7. Those would certainly be contenders for my favorite games of all time. Even more contemporary things that I really fell in love with, like Horizon, had to be, and The Last of Us, you know. But I think, if I'm being honest, games that I love to just go back to the well and play, and it never ever gets old, you know, I had to go with Street Fighter. I think it was the clearest choice. It wasn't even that hard.
Yeah, no thought of Samurai Showdown for you either?
I love the SNK. See, that's the thing too, fighting games. I don't like the 3D fighters. I know there's a lot of Tekken heads, of course, Mortal Kombat devotees, right? But I love the SNK. I'm an anime guy, old school anime guy, so I love the SNK Neo Geo fighters, the 2D sprites, the animation. Even outside of King of Fighters, Samurai Showdown, Mark of the Wolves, like all those series. But I think you have to hand it to Street Fighter for building that, you know, for inspiring those things.
Sure. And then it was Art of Fighting that copied them, right? And that's where they made the Dan character, right? Is that?
Yeah, well, the SNK.
Yeah, SNK made Art of Fighting, and then they made Dan to make fun of them.
Then they started going back and forth.
Cog, what do you think of this choice? Because I know you're an arcade head.
It was great. For, you know, as those Sovs in here, we remember those days, man. I mean, people don't realize how much of a cultural movement Street Fighter was in the arcade scene, the competitive scene, the mano y mano. You put your quarter up, I put my quarter up. And it was the sense of competition. I think that is lost, honestly, in today's online multiplayer era because, you know, besides the competitive whose skills was better, you know, you had the intimidation factor and also the win count of the person still on the arcade. When you went up there, you knew he was good. So it just added an extra level of it. And obviously the ports and stuff, you know, that came. It was priceless, man. It was a time. So yeah, Street Fighter was a movement. There's no doubt about it.
No, I totally agree. It's hysterical because I remember playing, we always talk about Brookhaven Multiplex, which is where Dagan and I used to go see movies when I was a kid. And it was fun putting your quarter up, like you said, maybe someone really dominating, not knowing the character a person would pick, watching someone play a character over and over again, and then you assume like, oh, they'll pick Guile or something, and then you make, you know, a great selection. Like if I saw you playing Guile, I might go with someone like Ken, but then they would make like a different selection. Like I used to get really scared when people would pick Zangief, because that to me, and Balrog actually to a lesser extent, because that was the sign that you knew how to play. If you knew how to play Zangief, it was like very frightening to me. Because he was, and we used to call him at IGN Zangrief, because we knew someone at the office, an artist, Sin, that was like excellent with him. We used to call him Zangrief. Well, anyone out there want to talk about Street Fighter 2?
I'll get over there eventually, but anybody on this side first?
I don't need a microphone.
We need it for the recording.
We'd like it for the video. Just riff for a minute. It's all right. Yeah, let's start here. As soon as he's done, I'll come to you. We're good.
Very efficient. Thank you, man.
Can I just get a live Dragon Punch impression from the two Moriarty brothers?
Oh. Do you want to go first?
3, 2, 1.
Wait. Okay.
So 3, 2, 1. So 3, 2, 1, and on 0, we'll do it. Right?
3, 2, 1 on 0.
3, 2, 1. Shoryuken! How about? Hurricane kick?
Hurricane
kick? All right, so 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Still have no idea what the fuck he's saying.
Yeah, I never understood what they were saying, so I just kind of made up my own. But I'm really glad Street Fighter 2 came up because I have some really great memories revolving around Street Fighter 2. Like, I was a little too young for the arcades; they were kind of going out when I was growing up. But I always loved going to Walmart and going to the little demo station when you get to look up at that monitor that's 20 feet in the air and your neck hurts for the rest of the week. But one of my favorite things about Street Fighter was that it laid a foundation for me personally that I took to other fighting games as I got older. Like, I learned quarter circle punch, did something. And whenever I played a new fighting game, I would try quarter circle punch, and most of the time something would happen. So I'd like to give a vote for Street Fighter in that what you learned from Street Fighter, like the moveset and stuff like that, it often carried on to games later down the line.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, very well said.
Fantastic point.
Yeah, and I like how he's like, I'd like to give a support street. It was like we're at the, the Continental Congress or something like that. Yeah, one more? Okay, perfect.
Hey, I just wonder if you considered throwing Turbo onto the game. Maybe you would have gotten a few more votes.
I really loved Turbo.
Me too.
I remember when that came out. Like,
yeah, we got
first of all,
we got
let's
it
talk
for
about the frustration of waiting as kids for Street Fighter 3. That they just kept coming up with iterations of Street Fighter 2. It was like almost like a joke. But then at the same time, at the same breath, we loved it. It's like, oh my God, Chun-Li can throw fireballs now. Or it's like they could do the slightest iteration, the slightest change, and it was like.
And then the really fast animations,
like
when they made it, yeah,
talent
and then
swaps, like the smallest things we'd be so excited about.
And of course, it was then the new challengers with the maximum pants from DJ, which I still want to get a pair of those. What a great character! First of all, I don't know if they can get away with T-Hawk anymore. And then but Cammy's still a big character in Street Fighter for them. I really like that choice a lot. How do you feel about that choice, Dustin?
Honestly, all I can think of is booting it up on the Super Nintendo Classic and I honestly can't even play it. It's like my brain doesn't work. So I don't know. Has anyone else, is that a unique? Take it easy. Has anyone else had that experience though on the Super Nintendo where you just like?
No, I love playing on the controller.
Yeah, the shoulder behind.
Yeah, I hold the controller like this with my. You might remember.
Yeah. To be honest, we got used to it.
The birth of the 6-button controller too.
Yeah.
The influence of
Definitely.
Yeah, because on Genesis you used to have to hit the start button to switch between punches and kicks, which was absurd and hysterical. And then they got the 6. Well, they got the input too, which was great for Mortal Kombat. Because there's no doubt that these multi-platform games were typically better on Genesis. Even when Mortal Kombat came out in '93, we had the sweat version on SNES. You guys had the blood version on Genesis. So yeah, this is a good choice. Although I know you have such a love for fighting games, there's so many good ones. Street Fighter Alpha 3 is another I really love as well.
Yeah, Alpha 3. I love Alpha 2.
And I love that you brought up Street Fighter 3 just because that game is so contentious. Like by the time it came out, everyone was like, oh.
It was so
everyone was like, I don't want to play this shit.
There's a lot of good fighting games you could. I was always Marvel vs. Capcom 2. That was like the one that I was.
It's so good.
You were really good at it too. Well, you might remember. Any longtime fans of me might remember. A guy at IGN hired me. Mark Ryan Silly was like a master at that game, and we did a live stream for Haiti when the earthquake happened. So it was like 12 or 13 years ago or something, and he bet that I couldn't beat him in 100 straight matches, and we live streamed it on IGN. And he bet, and we had Per Schneider sign off on it. I think because Per knew that it was going to be that if I beat Mark Ryan once, Mark would quit. I would be promoted, and then I would hire him back. And he beat me 100 times, and it's on IGN's YouTube channel.
Did he use the same team?
By the end, like the last 25, I started picking his teams, and he still. I'd be like serve bot, roll, and like whatever, or 3 serve bots, and he would just destroy me. Yeah, very embarrassing, but good for a good cause.
Ben, one more.
Who could it be?
Who could? Do you want to borrow these?
I knew it.
There it is.
We talk about the GOAT. We're talking about the greatest game of all time. We're talking about a game that is genre defining, so many different qualities. So let's get into it. Mass Effect 2, one of the greatest games of all time. We're going to break down the 4 pillars of why it is objectively the GOAT. The first is the innovation of space opera, your Star Wars, that kind of energy. Mass Effect 2 was evolved. It evolved Mass Effect 1 on every level. I'm sorry, Saul. I know that's your baby, I know. But Mass Effect 2 was a refinement on every level. All the core issues, and we're going to get into it, from technical innovation and all the different aspects of why people consider Mass Effect 2 superior to Mass Effect 1. Improved combat, exploration, lore. You know, as great as Mass Effect 1 is, and it is considered a classic, right? We can't deny the clunky combat, the rough around the edges. Look at that thing on the side, that Mako. What is that? Who's getting around the universe in that, right? One of the most horror-controlling things, as ambitious as it was. And now, as great as Mass Effect 1 was, it did set up the human Spectre, everything with that journey. I'm going to show you why Mass Effect 2 is superior in all these different counts. So we talked about the combat with Mass Effect 1, Mass Effect 2, tight cover shooting, almost Gears of War style, very tactile. Then you have the Unreal Engine, showcasing at its best, a refinement. Then, with the infamous Mako, they brought in scanning of planets, eliminating a frustration that Matty had with the Mako. But if you still wanted to traverse around the universe, they brought in the Fire Starter Pack, and you had the Hammerhead vehicle, sleek, air hovercraft, elevation, jumping around, getting around the universe the way you want to get around, not fighting with the controls. And then, of course, the deeper lore. You had the Spectre with Mass Effect 1, but now we get into this expanded universe. We get into these alien relations, the Geth and the Quarian. One wants the other one, almost like a slave-master relationship that has rebelled. Then we talk about the Krogan and the Solarian, a race of warriors in the Krogan who were almost made extinct by another race. So these deeper interpersonal alien races, and to me, one of the greatest technical innovations that I'll be remiss not to mention is the save transfer system. My young mind was blown away. Every choice I did in Mass Effect 1, even to the way my character looked, was important. That has never been done in gaming history. When they speak to BioWare at its finest, this was one of the most ambitious things they had to tackle. How do you get every choice to react in a concise way in the sequel? Mass Effect 2 did that. And to this day, it's still never been done before. Again, why it's the GOAT. Morality and choice. All right, the elusive man. Means to an end, right? That you are resurrected in Mass Effect 2 by a human supremacist. This guy is gray area all the way, and it brought back that old concept of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's get into it. Not your typical villain. We're gonna play a game. He evil, but is he wrong though? Like, completely unapologetically about the human advancement, but he resurrected you to kind of get the job done, right? Never fully transparent on missions, but maybe knows that, yo, if you know about your history, would get in the way of the ultimate goal. You know what I'm saying? Reckless tendencies, but resources and all the things you need as a Spectre to get things done. And then, Martin Sheen, baby, Martin Sheen is in the game. You know what I'm saying? Pissing you off, but he's also making you laugh by pissing you off. So salute to Martin Sheen. But at the end of the day, the elusive man is a compelling character because at the end of the day, your interactions with him is all about the choices you make to get the ending that you desire. Characters, Mass Effect 2. Let's get to it. This diverse cast of characters you actually care about. It's a dirty dozen. They're all different. They're all unique. You got all these different personalities going on. But then one of the defining features of the series, in my opinion, loyalty and romance. In-depth squad relations. Basically, every squad mate you encounter, you have to earn their trust or distrust. Look at this picture on the side. You see Shepard getting in between Jack and Miranda. A very contentious scene. but it's based on your Shepard, how you choose to act, whether you're going to be a diplomat, a dictator, what your choices did that led to that point could change that reaction and what happens, right? Then we talk about those loyalty missions, building that closer connection to your character. This is your squad. This is your crew. Look at that man, Dagan Krios. Y'all know what it is. The assassin, very deep, complex character. So much going on as you do his loyalty mission, the relationship with his son, all those different things. We got to be real about Mass Effect, y'all. Y'all know why y'all playing this game. It's the Dagan game, baby. You can get your swerve on with who you want to. So at the end of the day, that is a deeper level of personal relationship that you have with your squad. You can play the Dagan game, you could be unfaithful, and yes, you can go there in Mass Effect 2. Already game defining at that point. All right, and the final reason, Mass Effect 2, the goal, the suicide mission, y'all. Unparalleled complexity, unparalleled emotional stakes. Everything you did to this point makes it the single most ambitious mission in gaming, the masterpiece of consequence. I'm gonna break it down why. Look at the timeline. Everything you did to this point, it matters. Did you properly prepare? Did you get your ship where it needs to be? All factors. How loyal is your crew? Big factor to the decisions and what's gonna happen in that mission. Leadership check. Are you a smart commander? Are you putting people in the right position based on their job to do what they need to do to get the job done? All critical. Last point, time sensitivity and the ultimate consequence. If you dally too much, if you don't get things done, you miss out on huge portions of the game that will affect the end. And this, in my opinion, this last point, the ultimate consequence. This is BioWare at its boldest. You yourself, if you are an idiot Shepard, every bad choice you make, this is the first game that I've seen, where you yourself cannot survive into the end. There can be a situation where Shepard does not make it. Very bold, very ambitious. So there you have it. The GOAT, the space opera, morality and choice, the greatest characters ever assembled, the Dirty Dozen, and of course the suicide mission. Y'all know what to vote for. Y'all know what to do. It's over. But all jokes aside, thanks, guys.
This is a great choice. Mass Effect 2 is a phenomenal game. You're right about, you know what I often think about? We might have talked about it on the show before, but the fact that no one has tried to replicate what BioWare did with those 3 games and bringing saves through goes to show you how incredibly difficult it is to do it. And also, I loved reading about it more recently where they were saying like most people just don't ever play as a bad guy, and so like a lot of the work they do, most people never see, which I really like. I remember being at E3, I think it was like 2007 or 2008, talking to a guy from BioWare when he was explaining to me off the record that they were going to do that. And I was like, how is that even possible? I don't even understand how that works. And it seems like a lot of people still can't get there. So I think this is a great choice. Dig, I'm actually kind of curious what you think of this, because you've only played the original one. Yeah. Do you know anything about the suicide mission and all that kind of stuff?
No, I have. It's completely unspoiled, so we could do it for a knockback.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too, because I remember when I played it, I was writing the strategy guide at IGN. I was so mad because I lost like a couple people. And that was like when we didn't really know quite how to prepare. Now you can kind of plan it all out. Yeah, this is a good choice. What do you think?
I think that you brought up losing some people, and that's actually something that when I initially played Mass Effect 2 kind of frustrated me. Who's the green alien guy?
Oh, you talking about
Thane?
Well, Thane is green.
Okay, yeah. Yes. So he died in my playthrough because I screwed up the mission. Wait, yeah. So, well, I don't want. We'll get. I guess it's not a spoiler because it could happen or not happen in someone's game. But I screwed up his loyalty mission, thus resulting in his death in the final mission. And I had to make this decision. Like, okay, I could reload the save. I could do that, but that's not my story. And that's something that I do often is in games. I have to min-max and get this like ultimate playthrough, but Mass Effect made it so compelling to make my own story that was like, yeah, this is what happened. And he's gone. And I remember, I think there's even references in Mass Effect 3 where I was like, dang, that was like probably for my Shepard, like his darkest moment. And that was unique to my playthrough. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Definitely those choices. The boldness to, when you lose those characters in 3, they're gone, you know. And
Yeah.
There's reference of it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I dig it too in the sense that, again, like, I felt like Mass Effect 3 got like a bad rap because I don't know. I think that people expected it to just stay open as if it was a triangle that was opening even more and more at the base instead of a diamond coming back and concluding. And Mass Effect 2 almost did it a disservice. But I actually think in a strange way that it was just unfair to judge it that way. In hindsight, I think a lot of people feel that way too, especially with the Legendary Edition just coming out, people having a chance to experience it. I also love what you brought up about Unreal Engine. I think the first Mass Effect's on Unreal 2.x, right? And then they brought it to Unreal 3, I think, for Mass Effect 2. So, yeah, really interesting. Pre-Frostbite and all of that.
Big point of contention with Andromeda. A lot of people disconnected because of the lack of using Unreal. And EA, whether the decision be them proprietary or not, people didn't connect as much with Frostbite. Yeah, Unreal just, even with Legendary, it still kind of, it looks so sharp, it still looks good. It holds up, you know, when you're playing it. So yeah, I agree. I think Frostbite was a big decision. Another reason why I think people didn't connect with Andromeda.
Yeah, when you think about it, it's like they're fitting FIFA and NHL and Battlefront and Battlefield and all of these different games. Is Dead Space running on it? Probably not. And I understand why they're doing that, but it's cool. Like I liked when Sony let Ben make Days Gone on Unreal just because you could tell that they didn't want to make it on a proprietary piece of tech, even though they probably should have. Who wants to talk about Mass Effect?
Real quick, Jimmy, most hated man on the internet. Would you mind to turn off the projector? I trust that you know how to do it or can figure it out easily. Thank you.
I don't know if the remote works.
It'll go back to that screen that was totally intentional earlier if we don't. So, and we're done with the projector.
Lord Cog, as a one-time lieutenant in the incorrect side of Mass Effect 1 and reformed to the correct side, sorry, Lord Sov, I do have to ask the most important question. Who did Cog Shep bone?
Who did I romance?
Who did you bone down with?
I go down. It was Liara. It was Liara because the Shadow Broker DLC added a layer of complexity to the character, and I felt that, without spoiling too much, that obviously in 2 you were resurrected. And I'm like, why is she so cold to me? What is going on? And she was like, you've been dead for 3. Like I had to move on. So it was a complex relationship, and to see what she eventually evolved into. So yeah, Liara, she's sweet. Come on.
Yeah, I'd just like to lobby the floor for extra points for COG because even through all my years of college, that's probably the sexiest PowerPoint I've ever seen.
That was a hell of a thing. My PowerPoint was literally the same style that my, no joke, like 85 or 90-year-old professors that were teaching American history for 70 years were like trying their hardest. That's what I learned in college.
Well, I just want to thank you for not spoiling ME2. I missed it the first time around. I'm about 14 hours into it.
Close one.
Did you like the fact that they like brought you back? They like kill you and they brought you back. Because to me, it kind of felt like none of the deaths actually matter if you can just bring everybody back.
Yeah. Now, in reference to the start of ME2, you mean? Yeah, it was jarring because I thought that was pretty bold to start a sequel. I've never really seen anything like that, and I think that kind of led back into my Elusive Man thing, and I was conflicted because, again, without spoiling, there are a lot of people who are not happy with your relationship with the Elusive Man. However close you make it, but I thought that was a very interesting design choice and very bold. I didn't think they would do anything like that. So yeah.
Also, visually with I hadn't thought about the Elusive Man in a while. He's a really great character. Just that you don't really know where he is, and he's in front of that huge star, and it is actually quite visually stunning. He's a cool character. I'm sorry.
I think Martin Sheen really sells it too.
Yeah.
It's just such a good voice for that character.
I wanted to steal your Keith David. Keith David, he's in
Now,
Mass Effect killing
let's
too.
not
Let's not do
let's
that.
not lose our heads here.
Just like to point out too that Mass Effect is so great that EA's changed its mind on single-player games.
Well, it's also a good point that I actually was just thinking of this, Cog, when you were saying, when we were talking just in the previous one about how they reconstruct Shepard, and how that ended up being believable. And when Andromeda goes to the next galaxy and they kind of ruin it, I was like, well, they kind of just did whatever they wanted last time. So they can figure out a way to just get us back.
Yeah.
And undo some of this, retcon some stuff or whatever. So that kind of gives me some optimism too. EA's kind of getting better though recently.
Yeah. They even thinking about going back to Unreal for the potential rebirth.
That'll be excellent and smart.
So I want you guys at this point to kind of debate a little bit, mostly because it's vamping at this point. So what's going to happen next? We've got some lovely ladies and Matt. So I didn't even know. So we're going to hand out some ballots and some pens. And so maybe don't make your decision quite yet. Maybe there'll be a little more discussion. I'm sure people need to take the opportunity to attack Matty a little more.
Wait. Why was the reason that you put them in the order? Can I guess?
I will. 1 second. Sorry. Go ahead and guess.
No.
And then we can move on.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, just one note. I know some of you, we have pens. I know some of you won't be comfortable sharing. If you are comfortable sharing, offer it to somebody who doesn't have a pen, just in case we don't have enough. Maybe don't ask somebody if they don't offer, just because I know what time we're in right now. So there's enough.
There should be more than enough. Pens,
Okay, there weren't when I looked, but let's go for it. Okay, Colin.
There's a pen thief.
I'd like you to guess.
It's the order in which you thought that they were.
The order I thought they were?
Yeah.
They exploded on my stream, the box, because I threw it.
Okay.
It was crushed.
That's not the answer?
Does anyone remember that?
That's not the answer. No, the real answer is, as I saw them come in, I noticed that Matty was poking a little bit of fun at Dustin. But I thought it would be more comedic if Dustin was poking fun at Matty afterwards. But then, Dustin had some jabs at Matty. But Dustin also used the picture of Matty, but Matty used that same picture for himself. So Dustin took a little something away from Matty, and then Matty took something away from Dustin. Then I wanted for Chris to get something over on Dustin after the fact, but I didn't want Dustin to have the opportunity to take shots at Chris during his presentation. But I did want Chris to be able to have an opportunity to take shots at Colin after Colin went. But it also kind of went against Chris because Colin didn't use the trophy argument at all. So the reason that Cog went last is because his presentation was in a different program and I had to switch it.
That was a little like Laurel and Hardy kind of a little bit.
It was almost completely logistical, and that was it.
Well, you gave that
almost completely logistical.
Yeah.
He would have been like, oh, it's just an alphabetical order by the file names. Yeah. Well, because I just thought that because Matty went first.
Yeah, I thought I was getting set up. Right when my name was called, I was like, fuck.
All right, so let's go over these real quick then. Cog, where are you at right now as far as these different selections? We have Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3.
We have Dark Souls. We have Halo 3. We have your Mass Effect 2. We have Street Fighter 2. And, of course, Super Mario World. Where are you on these selections?
Outside of my own?
Yeah.
This is tough because, you know what's funny? I'm not a Souls guy, but Dustin was really selling me on Impact. And I had to take a deep look there. I'm like, you know what? That Souls-like, it birthed the genre. So right now, outside of I might be leaning Dustin, man. I'm not a Souls guy, but he sold me at the end. I like that way he concluded.
Yeah, I'm confused about this too. Like, Dig, where are you at on these?
I love that everybody had a unique style with making their case. You know, everybody's personality kind of came through a little bit. Everybody took a different track. You know, it was very colorful. I like how dynamic they were from presentation to presentation. The 4 of the games I haven't played. So.
Early Toy Story 3, right?
Toy Story 3 might be, it's Toy Story 3.
Matty, what are your thoughts?
I gotta say, Chris, I thought nailed it. I think he had a good in-betweener of how impactful it was, how good the game was, how well constructed it was, and then a couple of jabs for, to get a good laugh out of me, win some points that way. Of course I'm biased. I want to pick my own, but beyond that, I thought all the selections were really good. I haven't played Street Fighter beyond 4, which I did not like. I did not want to sour things.
Oh, you never played Street Fighter 2, but you played 4?
No,
Wow.
yeah, never played the original. So yeah, like I didn't have much to say on that. Dark Souls, I'm particularly passionate about. I agree with Dustin that the impact is enough to sell it. Why it's one of the best, because it's just like, it's created its own genre. That's really unheard of nowadays. And so those two were the ones I was really bouncing back and forth between.
Cool. Chris, where are you at?
Yeah, I think I really nailed it as well. But for real, if we could be nepotistic and pick our own, I think I really Mass Effect 2 is a really good argument. I love Mass Effect 2, and it's like one of the few RPGs that I really sunk my teeth into. And I know there's a lot of debate, because I have friends who only recently got into the Legendary Edition who are like, right, I don't like that they fucking it's not as RPG as Mass Effect 1, and I'm like, yeah, but it's better. In every conceivable way, and those characters really do stand the test of time. I do think there's just a lot of boldness in the way that game concludes and starts. It's insane. Yeah. Killing your character at the beginning is an amazing way to introduce any game. That's a really awesome, especially at the time, the way they did it, and it was so good. And everything. That's one of the few narrative-based games that I think is really strong the entire time. There are even something there's not a lot on the top of my head right now, but I'm thinking of even Resident Evil 8, right? Where I really like that game, but the beginning and the end are kind of, I don't know, they feel like they could have just not been there, and I would have had way more fun. And Mass Effect 2 really is just super, super strong, start to finish, and I can't really make that many arguments against it, except for the fact that I am obviously objectively correct. So.
Halo 3 was strong, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say that it is disappointing with because Dagan and I just last year did the original Mass Effect on Knockback, so Dagan had never played it. I replayed it for the first time in years, and it is kind of disappointing because I like a lot of the original Mass Effect, how deep of a role-playing game it was, and how they slowly stripped that out. And I never really understood, why couldn't you just do both?
Yeah, it's good.
Why couldn't you refine the cover-based shooting? Why couldn't you refine systems? Get rid of Mako if you wanted and all of that kind of stuff, but also make it so that when I inspect the codex, I get 5 experience points. And when I just, because I think by the time we got to Mass Effect 3, it wasn't so pronounced in 2, but I'm pretty sure in 3, there was an amount of experience points. You were gonna get this amount of experience points if you, and I was like, this is a little, I don't know, I wish they just kind of threaded the needle a little bit better. Yeah. But I think that's just kind of a small problem that I would have with it overall.
Also, dude, that galaxy map theme is so good.
Yeah.
I use it in videos for no reason.
Without even touching the soundtrack.
I was holding that one. Like you were holding on to the music.
Yeah, it would have been too.
I was like,
it's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. It's overkill at that point.
Don't embarrass us too much. Where are you at, Dustin?
So yesterday, when I met Matty for the very first time ever, he had someone said something. Ben was talking, saying something rude to Matty in a nice way, and Matty said, "Man, I was thinking someone's going to be the punching bag this weekend, and it's probably going to be me." And then the dude shows up with Toy Story 3. So I'm kind of like Matty,
galaxy brained.
Here's what I'll say though, Matty. I've always wanted to play this game.
Okay.
I never have, and
Same.
it was very compelling.
Yeah.
That's I think the most interesting aspect is that I was like, he may actually be onto some interesting parts here.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I thank you for sticking your neck out like that. Of course. It's bold.
I don't know, man. I feel like everyone had such compelling. Colin, your arguments I feel like were the most concise. So that's interesting. I think the heartstring side of me though, Chris with Halo 3, I didn't think about the theater aspect. Yeah. And I remember doing that, like you showed that clip where someone throws the grenade. I remember I found a clip where like a grenade bounced off of a bubble shield and landed on a dude's ankle.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, look at this. I could like zoom in. So, yeah, that impact. I mean, just look at like how we share clips now on PlayStation or Xbox now. That's kind of really is the genesis of that.
Yeah, they were really ahead of even Halo 2 like had an in-game friends list before like Xbox Live had any kind of infrastructure.
Yeah.
It was like it really was like I think that trilogy, not to but I really think it's responsible for a lot of the ways that like even PlayStation Network and Xbox Live have evolved into the things that they are today. Like I really don't think you'd see photo mode or just this emphasis on sharing if you didn't have something that big at that time taking full advantage of that in a time where really nobody else was doing it. And even still, like years later, people weren't doing it. To this day, people aren't doing it.
This day. I can't stop looking at these people. Everyone's passing the bucket around.
I know, it's
It is right
hilarious.
to give them thanks and praise.
You're giving your Patreon in person here, like, yeah, just throw a couple bucks in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do that.
So I'm just curious, did you guys like this idea? I think having a thesis, like some sort of structure, is a good idea, and I'm excited about like what else we can talk about in the future too, because I think this was very successful. And I want to give a great, I was talking to the guys privately yesterday, but everyone did a great job. I mean, it was a really wonderful array of games and thoughts, and pretty good representation, I think, of what we try to do on our shows. So I think this has been a great success from that point of view. I thought it would have been weird for us to just sit here for 3 hours and like, hey,
Talk about that guy who shit his pants.
That alone.
Yeah, never heard from that guy again. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Do you want to do some Q&A?
Yeah, let's do some Q&A.
Do you want it to be restrained to the discussion already, or just whatever?
Okay. Don't talk about anything. Restrain yourselves though a little bit.
While the votes are counted.
While the votes are counted. So I'm going to start
We
over here.
howl
'cause
everyone's
I wanna
votes.
come over there.
Anyone's ballot?
And if you have a ballot, he has a ballot. If you've already talked,
likely story.
It'd be great if we could go to people who have not talked yet. So, sir.
Hey guys, I wanted to talk about Breath of the Wild, and I wanted to talk about. Thank you. And I wanted to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 because this is addressed to everybody, but mainly Chris and Colin. Colin, I feel like you're very dismissive of Breath of the Wild. I don't think you've played too much of it.
Yeah, maybe like 15 hours or so, something like that.
Okay.
I think. Well, I'll let you finish it, and I'll explain.
But I know you're a diehard Last of Us fan.
Yeah.
So me and you agree on that. And then Chris, I feel like it's the flip side with you, where I think you give a lot of love to Breath of the Wild, or at least you kind of push back on Colin when he's trashing it, we'll say, or less than loving. But you're very, very not into The Last of Us Part 2, and I just wanted to know.
He just wanted to remind you of that.
Yeah. I don't think I knew that.
I wanted you guys to elaborate a little bit, just because a lot of people consider both of those some of the greatest games ever made, and again, it seems like you're just not on board. So, especially Colin, you being such a big Zelda fan, it surprises me every time you talk about Breath of the Wild and don't kind of see what a lot of other people see in that game.
Well, let me ask you this.
We'll try and keep it short.
Yeah, well, I was going to say this. First of all, I think that, one of the honest answers about Zelda is that that game came out at maybe one of the worst times of my entire life. So I think that that's kind of associated with that era to me. It doesn't quite explain why I love Horizon so much, although Horizon has trophies, so that probably has something to do with it. But the thing about Zelda, it's not surprising to me because, and I don't know if the guys disagree, but there's nothing about Breath of the Wild that's a Zelda game. I don't really see it as a Zelda game at all. It's not, it's an open world role-playing game, and that's fine, but it's not, when you think about Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time, or even games that I'm not crazy about, like Minish Cap and stuff like that, at least these games are coherent Zelda games, and we already have a George. We don't need this game. So I feel like this is that's a major problem with it. But I won't deny that I think that there's just something about the first half of 2017 where I just kind of hated everything. And it's because I was so miserable. So when I think about the sequel, I think that maybe whenever that comes out, maybe I'll give it another chance. But I will say that there are things about Breath of the Wild that I authentically don't like. I don't find breakable weapons fun. I don't know why anyone would find that fun. Unless you're playing like a very hardcore game. I don't find the climbing system fun. You're climbing and climbing and climbing, and you're just watching this circle, and you're just hoping, and then it rains, and then you fall, and disrespect. I don't know. I love, Majora's Mask is my favorite Zelda game, and I feel like
Me too.
that game had actually it was kind of what Cog was talking about with Mass Effect, where it's like that game had complete imminence, like 72 hours, right? The famous saying from the game. So I think it's a combination of everything, but I've been talking a lot, so Chris, why don't you take it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the well of this. But look, there's a lot about The Last of Us Part 2 that I think is genuinely phenomenal. I think it is a technical achievement. I think a lot of it is like supremely well acted. I think the motion cap technology is like incredible. I think just like that, there's that scene with the cloth, like I can't remember, there's like some cloth physics going on in like a cutscene. I was like, that's really amazing. And I think it's a beautiful looking game. I just, and I was on board for like the first half. Like I remember like the leaks came out, and that was like catastrophic for that game, but like we don't have to get into that. But I remember the leaks came out and everybody was trashing it, and I was like, guys, come on, give it a second, view it in context. I think that's like a fair thing to do, because you can make anything sound like garbage on bullet pointed lists and like leaked Reddit threads. But I played through it and I enjoyed it, and then it got to the point where I realized that there's like 10 more hours in the same exact, like they're not teaching you anything new mechanically. It's like the same kind of 10 hours stretched out even further, except with like a story that you're not invested in. And I really just, I think it's, I think a lot of that game could have been solved for me personally with just the structure of it. I think just the editing of it, and just like when certain things were told and when certain things were revealed. And it's one thing to like not like a character, and it's another thing to just like have many reasons not to, and then retroactively be like, wait, but it was for this reason that you didn't know. Well, it's like your first impression is ruined though, because I still don't really care. And I don't want to trash on it because it's been trashed to death, and I think a lot of it is unfair. I think it is like a spectacular, achievement in games, technology and all sorts of things. There's a lot of things about it that are amazing. I just didn't appreciate it as like a video game. I didn't have a lot of fun with it. I found myself thoroughly miserable by the end of it. And I really can't imagine a circumstance where I'll ever play it again. Not because it's not an incredible achievement, just because there's so many other games to play that make me feel so much better. Even games that like are kind of miserable slogs too. Like even like A Plague Tale I just finished recently. I was like, I think this is great, and it's also not 25 to 30 hours. I think just tighten it up a bit. That's it.
Tighten up the graphics on level 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what was kind of a bummer too was just the discourse around The Last of Us Part 2 sucked. I hated it.
Yeah.
I was so anxious to talk about the game, and we did like 4 or 5 hours on it over 2 spoiler casts, and I was like,
yeah, we did.
I was like, this isn't. It was a real shame.
Yeah. Everybody was upset.
Everyone hated those episodes. And I didn't really know why, but I was like, I just feel like this conversation sucks, and it's a real bummer because I was so excited about that game. And we also had that one guy in our audience who was like trying to spoil it for everyone on Patreon, and Patreon like has no tools for moderation at all. So we were like begging them to like get this guy off, and losing patrons and stuff. So that was kind of a bummer too. But I personally think my personal take on The Last of Us Part 2 is it's like one of the very best games ever. I think, and I think part of it is just because it is miserable. It's awesome. It's the same reason why we love a lot of sad dramas and sad books and horrifying, violent things. Like, I don't want to. I loved that they were like, do you remember how sad The Last of Us was? Well, we don't even you don't even understand how sad it's about to get.
I love that. Yeah.
Especially in the very beginning, like just in the first few hours. I can't believe you did that.
I do think both of us agree, though, that it didn't need to be as long as it was.
No, definitely not.
That is
25 to 30 hours is egregious for a game like that.
Yeah.
And I think that very similar to what we said about Red Dead 2, where I was like, the last third of this game could have been a DLC pack, and I actually don't think anyone would have even minded.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Where are we now? The Reds.
They're going to implode. Anyways, thank you. I loved all of your arguments. Street Fighter 2 was a game that made me rage quit and throw the controller. And same with Demon Souls or Dark Souls. So just a question for everybody. What was the last game that made you launch the controller across the room?
Crash Team Racing. because we had a bet that like I had to buy somebody a PS5 if I didn't get the platinum in like a week. And I got it in 3 days and my hands were blistered. I have never experienced that with anything before or since. You ever blistered your fingers on a video game?
No.
I thought it was fake. I thought it was a fake thing. And here I am, like, bleeding. Like, oh my God, it's real.
I couldn't believe you did it. It was incredible.
I did it, yeah.
You know, the thing about Chris, and I say this on the show a lot, is Chris is authentically very good at games. Every once in a while you meet, I worked in the industry for a long time, and there were some people that were good at games and some people that weren't. Most people were pretty average. But there are people you encounter every once in a while. Ryan McCaffrey's another one of these guys where it's like, wow, you can really just play anything. And you guys might have seen that Let's Play we did for Titanfall 2, where I couldn't get the last trophy in that for like 3 years, and then Chris just turned it on, hadn't played the game since it came out, and then just got the trophy. And that was and also when I sat down with him to play Mega Man 2, and I was like, yeah, this game's gonna kick your fucking ass. And then he just played it and didn't die, and I was like, all right, well, so that's just the way it goes. So I have to give him compliments for that too, because I think that high skill level opens his mind up to many more experiences than the games that make us rage quit. And I used to get fucking upset when I was at IGN all the time at games. Mostly because we were like in a bay, and we had like a capture bay, and we had an embargo, and you have no idea what you're supposed to do because no one has played the game. So no matter what you do, you can't go on Game Facts and then sometimes you would like sheepishly like email PR and be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Can you ask the team, and then they'll like send you like the internal walkthrough sometimes and stuff. So there's a whole lot to that. Just skill allows you to occupy, and I don't get mad anymore. Mostly because Dagan, you and I were talking about this on Knockback, where I realized, and I encourage everyone to try this. If you're like fighting a difficult boss in a game or in a difficult part of the game, just put it down and go to sleep, and then try it the next day.
Yeah.
And it really works. In fact, it works so well that I don't get mad at games really anymore. Because I was like, when I had a fight in Ender Lilies when I was playing it recently, I was like, this is fucking annoying me. And I literally just put it away. I went to bed. I got up and I played it like 12 or 16 hours later, and literally the first time I fought the boss after dying probably 50 times a day before I beat him.
Yeah.
So
My advice would be to everybody has a controller that dies. Keep it so that you can destroy it when you feel that rage. That's what I had one that I stomped that shit into the ground, dude. I was so mad.
Good idea. I also think about Dig. Remember, we used to throw a controller and get mad at NES, and Cog, you would know this too, NES and SNES. And when you would throw the controller, it was like a real thing because like it would usually reset the console. Yeah. So like when you did it, like because it would move the console and jar it. So like when you did it, you knew when it was coming out of your hand. You're like, well, I just. That's it.
Factual.
That's the end of that game.
Factual.
Where are we now? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. I'm walking through quick.
I got to pick Mega Man 0. I played that this year, and it almost broke me, man. Like, holy shit.
You played it in the collection?
What's up?
You played it in the collection that came out?
Yeah, I played the collection. I'm on 2 now, trying to suffer through that. But the first one, like, it was really, here's the thing. It's a Game Boy Advance game. It comes out, I think in 2001 or something like that. And there's no checkpoint system. And so in this collection, they added it, right? I'm thinking, like, certainly this will be easier. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm playing this and getting crushed boss after boss after boss, what is apparently a 2-hour game online took me 8. It's not that bad. And so...
No, those things are always bogus.
Yeah, absolutely. And even with the checkpoint system, it was still like, gut wrenching, like how angry I was getting at it. But I love Mega Man, so I pushed through. But it was worth it because at the end the story was pretty good, which is pretty rare for Mega Man.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, Zero was the one that got me. That was recent. Before that was probably Dragon Ball Fighters.
For me, Matty, you appreciate this one. Before we did the Ascent spoiler cast.
Oh my.
Yeah. Shout out to Saul's brother Kaibatsu and Valakai. I'm trying to do the review from a multiplayer only perspective, and we're getting to the last 2 stages, and the game keeps crashing to the point where we finally get to the last boss, beat it. In cinema, it crashes and doesn't retain my save data and puts me 2 checkpoints back. Oh, controller inducing at that point. So yeah, it recently was I've never played a game that technically broken where I could not finish it. I was just like, what is going on here? So yeah, that was my recent one.
Yeah, that's so annoying. I don't understand how games are getting out in the wild like this. It's like the literal, well, I think we were talking about it yesterday when we were in private, some of us, but like the Ghost of Tsushima just deleting your save out of the cloud thing. It's like, how did that even happen? How do you not QA test your games better? But I release games that are broken too, so I guess I can't really say anything about that anymore. Dave, where are you at with the anger?
You know, I'm a pretty placid, I mean, that's fair to say, right? I'm a pretty placid gamer. I don't really get pissed. Like, even as a kid, like, I just always saw it as like decompression time, you know? Like, especially now, working 60, 70 hours a week animating, like, being in front of the game console, usually doing something for knockback these days. It's like, it's enjoyment, so it really takes a lot to push me. Interestingly enough, though, one of the games I really enjoyed the most that we did on the show over the last 2 years, BioShock Infinite, which I really loved. There was a campaign right at the end of that game where you had to defend an airship from like oncoming airships. I like lost my shit. I got so out of body. Like I was like, this isn't even me right now. Like every night I would start at 10 o'clock. You know, that would just be my normal routine. I'd play for a couple hours, and there was like a week straight where like I was trying to tackle this one section, and I would just slam the button shut and go to bed, like you know, cursing and like nobody's around. It's just me. Like it's so sad. It was interesting that you brought up the question. The guy in the Reds hat that asked the question though. Talking about rage quitting with Street Fighter, because I grew up, my best friend PJ, if you guys listen to Knockback, you know he's like another character on the show. Like Chris, very talented at video games. Whatever he put his mind to, he was going to be the best at that thing. So Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat,
And his
Sonic.
mom, too, was really good at
his mom. It came from his mom. His mom wouldn't even let me play Sonic in the house because she would just look at me like trying to meander like a Mario game. She's like, this is not how you're supposed to play it. And like she would rip the controller out of my hand. So funny.
That's a blessing.
But he was so good, but then he was also the guy, to add insult to injury, that would sort of like, you know, mock you while he was beating the shit out of you. So that was a bad, that made us get better, you know, playing with PJ, but it was also really frustrating, you know. But yeah, those would be my, and Cuphead. Cuphead was tough.
Cuphead's brutal. That was a game where I'm like, I don't know. when we did the knock, because that was voted for on Knockback, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I have it in me anymore. It's so funny when I think about it. We say it all the time ad nauseum, but holy shit, when I was like beating Kid Icarus when I was like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And I sit down and play that sometimes now on NES Classic or whatever. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I don't even know. First of all, I'm sitting really close to the TV because the cord is 2 feet long. And I don't. It's just so strange how that goes. That's why I try not to get too, like, in the industry we like to make fun of like the guys that aren't very good at games and the journalists that aren't very good at games. But I try to be a little bit more forgiving. Got to dunk on them sometimes, but try to be a little more forgiving because it is difficult to play under duress when you have like deadlines and all of that. And that's what's so great about our company too, is that one of the many things is we can play games like whatever we want without any stress over embargoes and stuff, because it is really tough to play under those strenuous nature. Chris, you don't really get angry because you're not bad at games.
That one time. That one time with Crash. Because there's like time trials are hard. I'll just say that. That's it. They're really not fun. But I did it. Thank Christ.
Yeah, I couldn't believe, and I really appreciate that you like honorably did that, because That was like a bet you made.
Yeah, I did it on stream too, and there's like video footage. It's gone now. You'll never see it. But like, I'm livid. I've never said that many like awful things to myself. but maybe I'll edit it into something. I don't know. It is funny.
Dustin, where's your mind at with that? Just because you have a hankering for some of these.
Yeah.
These difficult games.
I had this brilliant idea earlier this year to start streaming, and I thought a great way to start would be to stream all of the Dark Souls and Sekiro. And so that was a very interesting experience to like get my legs streaming, playing some really, really hard games. And you don't want to look like a moron in front of everybody, but you do. And particularly for Dark Souls 3, the DLC, Sister Freda, right? Am I saying that right? I'm trying to remember. She's this cute girl, but she's got a scythe. And her dad is this big guy with a lava bowl that he likes to smack around, and it's a rough time. It's very difficult.
I have to imagine the chat added that too, right? And like, you know, the experience of like you die and then you have to look over and you see like people just lighting you up and you're
Dude, yeah. I mean, it was always like no, like I was like, guys, don't be disappointed. Don't. We're just gonna do it again. We're just gonna do it again. And then what was nice is that Lockmort would always be there for when I finish it, and he would put in all capital letters, "First try," whether it was the first try or the 100th. So he was always there for me.
0 deaths.
Yeah.
First, I want to say there's nothing wrong with achievements.
Right on.
They're great. I'm not a hardcore gamer, but I have watched him play Last of Us 2 and Last of Us, actually both in this past year, which is really, really long time commitment. But I just wanted to kind of comment and then ask the question. I think the most compelling thing for me about that game in particular was that it made you, kind of like Lord Cog said, think about consequence and think about actions and how, in particular, without spoiling anything, obsession and not being able to move on and vengeance can really affect not only yourself, but what happens to the people around you. And I think that that storylines like that really kind of are what pull me in, at least. And I just wanted to know what you kind of think of that within gaming and kind of those storylines that might not make you feel good, but are important to tell because it's the reality of everybody has a lot of different aspects to them, and their personality and what makes them tick and what makes them motivates them. And when you look at it, you might have a favorite character and you might built this love for this character, but you realize that nobody in that game gets away scot-free and as a hero. And I think that's really interesting to me. Perspective on that.
Yeah, I generally agree with you. I was annoyed by The Last of Us Part 2's, the way people were talking about it a lot, because my whole thing was just, and again, without spoiling, because I don't want to spoil it, I know some people haven't played it yet, but it's like, what did people want? What did they think was going to happen? I guess I was kind of confused by that. We come into the world of Joel and Ellie 20 years after the end of the world. It's horrifying. First of all, there's this whole gap of time we have no idea what even happened, which is awesome. And then it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. So when the sequel came out, everyone was like, why didn't they do this, that, the other thing? I'm like, what did you think was going to get better? And suddenly, like, it's over. The world's over. I mean, I think that's what makes The Last of Us so interesting. It's the same reason why Dagan and I and others love The Road, because it's over. It's not about anything other than it being over. And yeah, Ellie's journey in that is all about violence and vengeance. And I think it's kind of getting sucked back in and not being able to avoid it and not being able to stay away. And there's a scene towards the end of the game that was so stunningly emotional. Towards the ending, where I was like, it almost like made me gasp. And I won't get into what that was, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, like, they're like, it's so depressing, and how can they do this? And I'm like, well, isn't that like all the movies we watch? Do we like Saving Private Ryan because it's like a fucking uplifting story? Like Schindler's List, you know? Like, well,
yeah.
I guess, you know, BioShock or something like that, Atlas Shrugged, like, these are all like horrible stories, and that's what's so fun about them. So that's my opinion. I don't want to go into a video game, and even with what It Takes Two, which we were talking about recently, which is about divorce. It's like, what do you want this? You want some happy-go-lucky co-op game, or do you want a co-op game about divorced parents? I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. Doesn't have to make you feel good, but watching Friday the 13th doesn't make me feel good. It's just cool.
Right. I have to agree. I mean, there's this scene at the end of Kingdom Hearts where. No.
How did it take this long?
I think that's interesting now because we often say gameplay is king. And I think that is ultimately true.
Sure.
But when I think about, at the end of the day, like the games that I love the most and have impacted me as a person, I never think about it as the gameplay. It's always the story, the characters, and the experiences we have. And so it's cool to see how games can do that unlike any other medium. I mean, obviously movies are cool, shows get a little closer, but it's that element of the gameplay tied with story, I think, that makes it so great.
Yeah, very well said. Chris, you have a lesser affinity for story compared to gameplay if you're on that particular spectrum, but you love both still.
I mean,
and you're on other particular spectrums as well.
I have different appreciations for different things. I think there's a lot of story in gameplay. Like when I think of the story of, you know, I mean, obviously I'm just going to talk about this by what I chose. But when I think about story in like Halo, I do think about that narrative, and I do think about the music and the characters and like the performances, and it's all really engaging and really cool. But I also think about the stories that like my friends and I have, and like, oh man, do you remember this saved film that we did in like 2008 of us like doing this like crazy capture the flag run on that ridiculous map that we made, and or just like little physics things like that, and like I tell people about that too, and that's like, yeah, it's not a narrative, but it is a story that's kind of like almost in some ways a little bit more interesting because it's like entirely unique to my experience that I can then share that with everybody. No matter how you feel about The Last of Us Part 2, I'm sure a lot of people feel very, very differently based on how they've played it. But, you know, everybody played the same Last of Us Part 2. Like, without it, like, start to finish, you played the game. Like, the same exact game that everybody else played. But then you have some games that, like, you just run through on a normal level, and then you see, like, crazy, ridiculous, like, esports people play it. And they're doing shit you didn't even think was possible. And they're playing a whole different game, even though it's the same thing. And I think, you know, I appreciate really good story. You know, I like the way BioShock like marries the two, and the fact that the perspective never breaks. It's first person the whole time, and you're just kind of there experiencing it first person. It's such a good way to. I think that's a really preferable way, in my opinion, to tell stories, especially in FPS. I think like Half-Life and things like that just tell a really incredible story through gameplay and through like, you know, diegetic things happening in the world around you rather than like, you know, the camera being wrestled, you know, and like, hey, watch this now, and the light's real good because it's the only thing that's being rendered really. But I wouldn't say like I don't care about stories so much as I do think gameplay is king. I do think gameplay is kind of its own story in games that are designed really, really well. There are games that are a bit rigid that I, you know, don't necessarily care that much for, but I think it's a spectrum, you know.
What do you think, Matt?
When it comes to The Last of Us, well, Part 2 specifically, you know, because I was all for big changes in Ellie's character, for example, but I felt like anytime she was challenged by someone in the story, I'm honestly forgetting the names of them, but like when she was challenged, like, why are you doing this? It seemed like the writing intentionally avoided her motivations because it was clearly obvious that they wanted the story to go long. Like we had talked about, like they really stretched it out. And I feel like as it progressed more and more, that theme that could have been impactful just sort of soured on me halfway through. At the same time, I'm one of the weird people who liked Abby's part of the story a lot. And so, You know, maybe I just have an unpopular opinion on it. But for me, I sort of fell out of love with the character that I really liked in the first rendition, and I felt like the writing really hurt her because it just, whenever they were trying to challenge her and they could have brought her to a new level, it sort of fell short for me.
Dagan, I'm anxious for you to play the Last of Us Part 2.
I can't wait. I mean, The Last of Us, I was just sitting here thinking, was the first game to make me cry probably since Final Fantasy 3/6, and those might be the only two games to ever make me that emotional. I love video games as an emotional experience, and I love what you said about, you know, why do we go to that place as humans where, you know, we're invested in something that maybe is unpleasant, you know? And I think it is that thing of relatability. It's like, as humans, it's almost cathartic, right? Because life's not all about joy and happiness and success and health and all those positive things. Sometimes it's fear and anxiety and depression and worrying about our loved ones and feelings of vengeance or wanting to avenge a wrong, you know, to help right something, whether it's for us or somebody else. And I think that's what is so compelling about video games and experiences like that. It's not just about story, too. It's about character, you know, and really getting invested in something like a movie or like a good TV series. And for me, too, it's interesting, too. I like to kind of jump back and forth between the things that are a little more surface level or just candy-coated, maybe like a Street Fighter or a Mario game where it's a lighthearted thing and something you could go to and just enjoy something. And then something where you're willing to get a little more emotionally invested, where it's maybe even a little more like emotional or mental toil to do that, to go to that place. But it's kind of satisfying. And you do that when you feel like you're prepared to do that. If you're having a shitty day, really crappy week or something, it might not be the best idea to go pop in The Last of Us Part 2. You know? Or read a Cormac McCarthy novel for that.
Yeah.
But I love Cormac McCarthy, but I'm a pretty upbeat person. But I love, you know, I think also like there's just something about it that's hard to articulate where we want to go to dark places. You know, like I'm not a dark dude. Maybe I am on the inside, but on the outside I'm certainly not. But I love reading a Cormac McCarthy novel. And, you know, like I love a game like The Last of Us or a dystopian, something with a dystopian setting. It seems so hopeless, like BioShock. Yeah. You know, I love it. And it's weird. I don't even like to think about it too much, and I enjoy that stuff. I'm like, it's kind of weird. I don't know. Like maybe you don't think about it too hard.
I don't know why that is. It is interesting, though. You know, sometimes you want to watch like a rom-com or something like positive and happy, but typically I just want to get emotionally wasted by something. I have no idea why. I think maybe like it's funny, but in a way, it almost feels like it fulfills this deep yearning inside of you that is curious about that level of sadness.
Yeah.
That level of darkness.
How much can you take, or you know, it's like watching a horror movie, like you said with Friday the 13th or Ari. You know, I love Ari Aster. You know, watching Hereditary. Why do I want to watch that over and over again? That movie disturbs the shit out of me.
Yeah, Midsummer I've watched
the shit out of myself.
Yeah, I watch Midsummer over and over again for some reason. And I don't usually do that either. Cog, where are you on the whole storytelling? I mean, obviously, we were talking about Mass Effect 2, and I mean how important games are, storytelling is to you.
I agree. I think Dagan kind of exemplified my points. I like when games straddle that line with those morally gray areas, and sometimes, you know, as gamers, sometimes we think everything is supposed to wrap up in a bow so easily. And I like when I'm challenged. I like when you come across characters or scenarios where it makes you uncomfortable. I think Matty, me and you had a discussion about like game development and like being allowed as an artist, right, to tell your story. And not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Things are rough out there. And I'm also like you, Colin, when I'm kind of attracted to that because at the end of the day, to me, that's a more representation of real life. And sometimes we try to, as gamers, empower and enforce like our thoughts on how the game development should go. And it's like, no, this is this dev's story. This is what they want to tell, and I'm all about the expression and the freedom. So I love that stuff. So when you mentioned, you know, Last of Us, and I think about Mass Effect, and there's characters that I'm morally torn because I like them, but then there's certain aspects that they do. I'm like, that ain't too cool.
Well, what you said about the Elusive Man is a great point. He is in the game. He's basically a racist, like, and the game kind of forces you to try to see it, right? Yes. And it needles you, and I like that. Like, I'm not a very proud person because I say all sorts of shit on the show, but I'm not too proud to say that there is a darkness in me. I'm a sad person. Like, I am attracted to that. I'm attracted to that in music. Like when you put on the Smiths, right? Mm-hmm. Or you listen to like a sad Sunday song or something, where like I love that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess I need that reconfirmed in me over and over again, even though it's probably maybe not great for you. Although I think it's probably good for me creatively. I don't know. Ben, what do you think?
So we have 2 more questions. Hopefully they're quick because we're running out of time. I already have them picked out. Apologies, I just spotted people that had raised hands. Then we have a few quick announcements. We'll reveal the winner of the vote, and we'll get along with our night.
Very good.
Definitely me.
So, Cog, this one is for you. So when I played through Mass Effect, I actually had a negative experience with the state transfer. I'll try to be as minimal with spoilers, but I remember playing through the first one. Rex Krogan died in my story. And I remember going to the second game where Rex would have appeared. Not like the story changes all that much. And it's almost as if the illusion of choice is an insult. Rex is gone. Like the Krogan should be gone. I failed. Like, why is this all still? Curious if your thoughts, if you had any similar negative experiences when you played more than it.
It's a great question. With that particular death, it's interesting because there's a YouTuber out right now, I forgot his name, great channel. And to this day, he finds things in Mass Effect based on choices and things in certain paths that I didn't even know existed. And without spoiling, that replacement for Rex, there is a possibility that you could do something with the genophage that I didn't know was possible in the game, but it could only happen under the scenario that Rex dies. Right? Now, to your other point with the illusion of choice, I think for people who are now coming into the Legendary Edition now, I'm like excited. Like, so we know Addict is new to Mass Effect. Like, he never played any Mass Effect. So it's kind of interesting to see. I have 2, as my beloved Solve has 1. We've done a debate podcast, and I love podcasts about it. But a lot of the new generation, they connect with 3. For me, it was one of those situations where I think, and Colin said it earlier, it started to get wide, and then they had to kind of close it up. And I think the issue just came down to why 3 is, even though it's technically, maybe you may say it's better, it may be have you on the edge of your seat, I think a lot of people felt it wasn't worth it at the end, all of those choices, when you got to that ending of 3. And it was actually a big controversy at the time, the way 3 ended, so much so that BioWare had to add an additional component ending, like another 15 gigs of extra ending and things to kind of round it out. So I get your point. I think that fits for me more with 3, whereas 2 is that perfect bookmark with the suicide mission then leading into the 3rd one.
So I have the results of the votes.
Oh, right. It's important.
I wanted to ask you, Colin.
Bless you.
Do you want me to read all of them or just the winner? I don't want to embarrass anybody, but
No,
I also
I-
think people like to know where they rank.
Yeah. Well, does anyone ever?
Anyone have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that at all.
Matty, I'm going to ask
Now, you can't be doing my man like that.
I'm prepared. You can win. Thank you.
That's sick.
you. All right. Coming in the 6th spot, which is technically the highest number, so it's not really a loser in that respect. Dagan. Street Fighter 2.
Wow. I didn't come in last.
Boo! How can you do that to my brother?
Wrong choice, baby. Wrong choice. Some young boys don't understand. They don't understand.
I'm a little annoyed that he didn't get a few extra votes for the outfit that unfortunately the first time I met him in person, he hugged me and wasn't wearing. We'll get over that. Next to last, Dark Souls. Dustin.
I will remember this day.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
We're looking good.
Stand down, people. Come on.
Now the next one, so Dagan, Dustin, and this next one are all separated by 5 votes.
Oh.
But the next one, let me double check to make sure. Matty, let's play straight through.
Wait. All right. Thank you. Wait, Ben.
You're saying this community put Toy Story 3 over Dark Souls.
They get it, Dustin.
No, I'm saying
They
this
get it.
community put Matty over Dustin.
It's Woody with a gun.
Next up, with over double the amount of votes that Matty had, Lord Cog.
Should we hold hands like we're on Star Search? Man, that's like some dated reference. Holy shit.
If you think the next loser, meaning not the winner, is Colin, cheer. If you think the next loser is Chris, cheer.
Yeah, you couldn't have possibly said that any more awkward.
Second place is Chris.
I'll take it.
I think Chris is loud. That's unbelievable.
We kneel to you, Colin. With double the amount of votes as the person 3 below you. So.
What are you saying? What the fuck you saying? I don't know what you say.
I just want to emphasize how much you defeated everyone by.
This is
I
horrific
appreciate that.
math.
I feel like that top to bottom is surprising. I feel like I bought some of you out. That's fine. It's my company. But I'm a little surprised by this. Man, you lucked out, Matty, huh?
That bottom half is sweet. Top of the bottom.
Very well done. Well, where are they? Right.
So, thank you all for coming again. I know we've said that a couple times, but we really mean it. Thanks for coming. Let's give these guys a hand.